I will go ahead and start. It is 6:02 p.m. on September 26, 2023, on a Tuesday evening. My name is Nick Kremp. I'm the conservation agent for the city of Leominster. Before we get any further, I just want to remind everyone, if you have any devices or cell phones on you, to please silence them so we don't get any interruptions. I will start with a roll call of commissioners present. Jim Chambers.
Here.
Mike Seekey.
Present.
Bob Seacard.
Yes.
And Chuck Raymond.
Here.
And absent are Stephanie Quinlan, our vice chair Richard Gullick, and
That's it, committee guy.
oh, and we don't have a full board right now, so that is it. So we have 2 absences and 4 present, so that makes a quorum of our 6, and we can go ahead and start. So I'll leave it off to Chuck Raymond.
Thank you, Nick. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see a few folks here tonight. And again, my apologies for being a minute late, but still late. One of the things we like to do is before we get going, see if there's anybody in the audience that has anything they'd like to bring up to the commission other than those that are already on the agenda. So if anybody has any issues aside from the agenda, you glad to hear it? No? Okay, good. Want to make sure. Good. Moving on. We'll get to the full agenda then. All right, under new hearings, I'll go ahead and read it into the record. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a request for determination of applicability for the partial resurfacing of a tennis court in the wetland buffer and riverfront area of Fall Brook. Address Meadow Pond Drive, map and parcel 482-2-12. Just to make sure that you understand, a request for determination of applicability, or RDA, doesn't mean there's any work before, they're not here for a permit or like a notice of intent. This is just for us to make sure that we are on the same page when it comes to the jurisdictional location of the wetland itself, and whether we have any authority over it, and if so, how much. Pretty correct, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So so moving on, is there anybody here to address that project?
Bob Kelly, former president.
Bob
Kelly.
Bob, nice to meet you, Bob.
Ryan Kelly. I don't know. I got to put some.
Are you the property owner?
I'm an owner in the condo complex. Yes.
Oh, you're one of the condo owners.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
He's the
Just wanna make sure.
president of our condo board.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, condo president. How many friends do you used to have?
I don't have any.
Perfect then.
And I've been there since '87. I've been on and off the board for years.
Okay, proceed. Yeah, good to have you.
Thanks. We're looking for condo docs state that we have to have tennis courts.
Okay.
So basically, we're looking for the approval to dig up this one, resurface it, take out the fencing, and then re-put in a new one with new fencing.
Okay.
That's basically what I'm finding out. We need to get approval on that. So page 1 shows where it is. Page 2 shows the flood zone, where it sits.
Hold on, let me get my bearings here. Hold on.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. So it's basically the same angle.
Yeah, basically.
The second one's a little farther out. Okay.
Right.
Got it.
And then on the last is the work to be done
Okay.
by Goldman,
All right.
R.L. Goldman, to put in 2 new tennis courts. And what they plan on doing as far as digging it up, chopping up the old tar. And that we are looking at getting an engineer to come in to take a look at the ground, make sure that it's still suitable. And that we want to make sure on our end if we get the okay.
Okay. So it's basically what you're proposing to put. First of all, are you all set?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So what you're looking to put in is basically the same thing that's already there.
Yes.
You're just looking just new ones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Alrighty. Have the wetlands been flagged?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Not recently for this project or or anything.
Okay.
But they do, it's, the wetlands, if you're familiar, I know you're not a wetland specialist, but they're kind of right up against the back of the court, right? It's kind of in the woods a couple of feet, but
Yeah, the wetlands, yeah,
but it's basically just around the perimeter of that in the woods.
yeah, but according to that second page, it kind of shows where you
Right.
could have floods, so.
So that's the floodplain.
I've been there since '87 and I've seen the tennis court get flooded 3 times, including this past one,
Okay.
so.
But what I meant was, by having the wetlands flag, you have a wetland scientist go in and literally hang typically orange or pink flags at the edge of what is considered the wetland. And that's typically determined either by wet soils or the types of plants that are growing, or both.
Would that be done by the engineer? Or,
No, it would typically be done by an environmental consulting company or civil engineering company, somebody with a professional wetland scientist involved.
oh, okay.
And at least I think you're not saying that that's required necessarily right now, it's just a question of how.
Yeah, I'm not saying you have to have it,
Yeah,
but it would be helpful for us, just so we can understand it for ourselves,
Okay.
because our mandate is to protect the city's wetlands. So we're just making sure that what you're doing is not encroaching in the wetland. But you've got a tennis court, you've got a developed area there, you have every right to redevelop
okay,
in the same footprint. It would just be helpful for us to know exactly where the wetlands are
okay.
compared to the tennis court, that's all.
Okay, I'll bring that back to the board and see what we can do.
That was my only question. Anybody else on the question have any comments?
Yeah, the one question I had is, I see the proposal, and I didn't realize tennis courts were quite that expensive, but
Yes,
I'm sure you've got some very good tennis players there. I didn't see anything about the removal of the material that's in there, and that should be on the quote, because it can't be hanging around.
my understanding, I think on here, they're gonna regrind it up and use it to, as a bit, help put a base down to put the new tar,
Okay,
the new,
okay,
tar on it, so. I don't think anything was being removed, but I will find out.
and
No, that's the fourth bullet item, it says to pulverize 1,458 square yards of
Yeah,
area
remix.
remix with existing rock.
okay. And the other thing I didn't see is that you should consider are some erosion barriers. There's a silt fence or some wattles, just to protect anything from getting into the wetlands,
Okay,
that on the side that they're gonna be working.
Nick, is that something that you could help them with, just to, because they're gonna need straw walls or hay bales, like Mike said, so if you could.
Yeah.
If it's suitable to the commission, I was gonna suggest putting that as a condition
Yeah,
on
Okay.
whatever determination.
that's fine, that's fine.
That's all I had.
Bob or Jim?
I do, is there gonna be any earth disturbance around the perimeter there towards what I would presume on this map says Fallbrook, so that's where the direction of the wetland, so. You know, this area here, you're gonna be cutting trees or?
not as far as I know, we may have landscapers come in and kind of edge them. I don't see removing any.
Where would the fence line go then? 'Cause
It'd be where it's existing right now, so, along the right-hand edge and those trees, they need to be just trimmed a little up, but not removed in order to get a fence back in.
Alright, that's all, I mean, if they needed to be removed, then that might be a
No, that's,
concern.
Yeah, I think what we'd probably like to see is some hay bales or straw wattles to prevent
Yep.
sediment from washing into the wetland, and to keep any equipment out of that area.
Yep.
As well as to keep any supplies from being stored in that area.
right.
So any supplies need to be stored
Yeah, they have
towards
in
the
the
tennis
parking lot.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right. And you can certainly, what we'd like to see is when you're about to begin work, call the, not the day of, but give them a
Yeah.
little bit of notice. Get in contact with the agent, he can meet you out there and just kind of go over it and
Okay,
show you where the straw wattle should be and where equipment can be stored, that type of thing. Just, again, trying to keep things out of the wetland.
yep, no, I
Alright.
understand.
I know
So
you're,
we've got quite an asphalt pavement area.
I'm sorry?
they've got quite a paved area
Oh,
there.
yeah,
so
right,
they-
yeah, exactly, right, yeah. I don't think that's too onerous a request.
Well, I would just like to include, minimal, vegetation reduction or.
Yeah, but I think that with trees that are overhang the court, or branches that are in the way of the equipment, you can certainly trim those.
Yeah.
So I don't, yeah, basically, from what I'm hearing, I don't, see the need for any kind of tree cutting or anything, like, cause you're just gonna be working in an existing
Right.
area anyway.
Yep.
Any like landscaped trees, like the shrubs kind of around the perimeter of there, I'm sure the association would like to keep just for aesthetics. But I would just maybe put in as a condition, like any landscaping that's removed, just like some equivalent is replaced there. But I figured you'd
Fine with that.
kind of want to be doing that anyway.
Yep.
So if someone else has any,
Well, Jim kind of stole my question about removing any more vegetation that's existing there, if you were planning to do that, but it doesn't sound like it, maybe some touch up, or if it's in the way of the fence removal or stuff like that. But you can understand the sensitivity over the past week, it's a tender, drainage area.
Oh, yeah.
And if there are, I think, any kind of storing or piling of this demolition, not the demolition, they're pulverizing the material, could they keep it away from the
Yeah,
that end
they
of
got
it?
plenty of parking we can block off in there to let them use that area to do it in, and that's what we'll do. And keep it out of that area, I understand that, that's not a
And
problem.
if you see another 11 inches coming, maybe you can target 5 or 2, I don't know what
We
else.
didn't see this one coming, so.
Yeah, I think it-
Alright. Nick, how much advance notice do you need, ish?
I would just say 48 hours,
48 hours,
kind of
okay.
standard.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, if you just give them advance, a couple days notice.
Yep.
You can meet you out there when work's about to start.
okay. Yeah, property managers, you've heard from Susan.
Yeah,
But,
she's very communicative, so
yeah, she'll be the one contacting you.
she'll be in touch, yeah, I'm sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't have any other questions.
Anybody else? Okay. With that, are there any questions from the audience? Questions or comments or anything?
I live at Fallbrook also.
Name please, ma'am?
My name's Joan O'Connor, I live at Fallbrook also.
Thank you.
If we find some, and I'm also on the kind of board, if we find, say, when we go by and there's dead trees, we do a good job of trying to, take, property, keep the things, and we found that we are doing some dead trees. If it's on your land or your wetland, who handles it, us or you? Or the city, I guess?
Dead trees, if they pose a hazard
Okay,
to power lines, cars, property, they can be removed, but as if they're in or near the wetland, let Mr. Kremp know.
okay,
Otherwise, you can just leave them, because they provide habitat for all kinds of animals and critters.
Right.
So if they can be left, we'd love to see you leave them. But if they pose a hazard, they certainly need to go, but just let Mr. Crump know if they're in a wetland.
yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, cause we have some that, many years ago when I first moved in, there used to be some beaver dams back in that wetland. And they took down a few trees that went over and hit our fence and wrecked our fence. So that would be the only thing that I would think that would cause an issue because of where they are.
Yeah.
It'd be just whether they could go fence and hit the fence, that would be.
Well, if there was somebody playing tennis and a branch or something could
Yeah,
obviously injure them.
Yeah, that would be our
That would be a
concern.
big cause.
I just wanted to clarify one thing, any of the trees that are maybe within the flood zone are your property. We just regulate how that property is used because it
Okay.
is in the flood zone.
Okay,
That's a good point, Jim, because I've been hearing that a lot over the last 2 weeks. So it's kind of that's a common misunderstanding. Is like that it's still on your property, it's still your land or your trees, but there's certain protections from state regulations that prevent you from doing whatever you want.
right, okay, and I understand that. Yeah, we'd never do anything without you.
Right. Yeah. But just for everyone's benefit, because that's a very common misconception that I hear. So thanks for pointing that
Good
out.
question. Anybody else?
No, thank you for a presentation, thanks for coming before us.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
So,
What do you got for us, Nicholas?
yeah, so based on the presentation, and you can take a seat if you like, yeah.
Okay.
Based on the presentation today and my site visit on the property in the last couple of weeks, I would recommend that we vote for or that the commission votes for a -3 determination. That the area is within our jurisdiction but will not alter the area with the following conditions. That some type of erosion control barrier be placed between the area of disturbance and probable wetlands on the site because it hasn't been flagged. So just ECB between the court and any of the woods.
ECB is erosion control.
Erosion control, yeah.
Sorry about that.
And the second condition, just give the conservation agent, myself, 48 hours notice before start of work. And number 3, to just please replace any vegetation that's removed in the process of repaving the
And one other, make sure no equipment or materials beyond the soil wall.
Yep.
All good?
Sounds
Okay.
good.
I'll say Nick.
So,
Okay then, so what, I'll then request a motion for a -3 determination with the special conditions that Nick outlined.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, is there a second? Thank you, Jim.
okay. I'll take the
Getting
rest.
your names right, by the way, now. I noticed that.
That took 3 years.
You're welcome.
I'll take the rest of the commission's vote by roll call. Bob Seacard. Aye. And Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
And motion passes 4-0. I'll get you that determination later this week.
All right, thank you very much.
No
Thank you,
problem.
good luck.
Thanks.
And good luck.
Good to meet you.
Thank you. My sympathies as condo president. Okay, moving on. Again, read the next one into the record. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a request for determination of applicability for the replacement of a dock, address 10 Lakeshore Drive, map and parcel 477-1A. Please come on up and introduce yourselves.
Hello. Hi, I'm Paige Prokosky.
And I am Brendan Prokosky.
Yeah, I wish I had a proposal to hand you. I don't have one,
Okay.
other than the RDA that I have submitted to Nick. When we moved in June of 2021, there was a 30-foot dock at our home already. It collapsed, unfortunately. It was.
Well, I'm just gonna make sure I know the location, so go ahead, I'm just
Sure.
looking up on the map, go ahead.
Yes, so it collapsed. It had steel I-beams in it that were rotted. We removed it and
Steel I-beams, right?
Yeah.
yes.
2 30-foot I-beams that went into the ground.
Thank
And
you.
just over time, I'm assuming
Oh,
water and
into the
stuff
ground,
rusted
okay.
out and
Alright,
it collapsed, and so I asked the Lake Association if I could remove it because it was becoming a hazard. And I didn't want to obviously do anything without clearing it with them first. And so I removed it, and then now we want to put a new one in.
Yes, so
okay,
it's.
good, I'm glad, because this isn't where I thought it was, okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so the one that we are proposing to install is semi-permanent, so it can be left in year-round. It can also be removed. It doesn't need footings drilled or anything for the dock. We
Friend of
just.
mine's going like that.
Yep, so we just wanted to make sure that we are doing this with everybody's approval it's a 20-foot T-style cedar dock. It has, I have my little corrosion resistant hardware as well. We can take it out at the end of the season, or we can leave it year round based on what your recommendation is. If it's a requirement for it to come out at the end of the season, we can do that as well. So-
And,
No, go ahead. I don't
Are you
have a
all
lot more
set?
to give than that, yeah.
okay, I was like, so, looking at this, this is where the landward end of the dock would rest?
Yes.
So that's already there, and okay.
Yeah, so that used to
It was
be-
there for the old one?
Yes, so that's where the beams were.
Yeah.
There are still some under the grass there.
Okay.
But he removed the majority of them and we just kind of laid some gravel over there so that no one was stepping on,
Okay.
what's left of the beams.
And it would extend, what, 20 feet out?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
So
So
it's
it
a
went
little bit less,
probably,
'cause part.
yeah, probably went in the ground like 8 or 9 feet, and then it went out however many.
Okay. Alright, and if you were to remove it during the winter, would you just kind of put it off, take it up and just put it off to the side?
In our
Yeah.
shed, we have a
Oh,
shed in our
okay, all
backyard.
right.
Well, next to the shed.
Next to the shed, that's fine,
Next to the
is it a 20-foot long shed?
The big shed, we put it next to the
18 footer.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a big one, alright. Yeah, replacing a dog, it's,
Sorry, we don't have anything more interesting.
that's quite all right, no, this is,
Pretty
this
simple.
is, yeah, it's pretty simple, it's perfectly fine. That was my only question, anybody else have any questions?
No, could I say something now? I
Of
mean.
course you can, sure.
Sure. So, they've done a wonderful job, both on their property and on removing that dock. It was an eyesore, it was I won't say it was a hazard to navigation, but it certainly was a mess. And Brendan did a very good job cleaning it up, no mess was available, and I think they've done a wonderful job, so.
Yeah, make sure no
Thank you.
rust or anything got in the lake. We're very careful of that, like breaking it off and breaking up all the pieces.
There was a lot of rust in the water that we raked out.
Okay.
Big
And,
rusty chunks, so we.
And the fact that it's cedar and not pressure treated, I think, is a good thing as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's not similar to the case we had a few weeks ago.
No, not at all.
I'd say it's similar, but it's slightly different because they're not, you're referring to the other one on Lake
Replacement,
Samoset with the dock?
Yeah.
Yeah, cause that one was a little bit more overgrown, there wasn't a designated place, it required a little bit more vegetation clearing, like at least on the way down to the slope, so. On hindsight, I might have recommended that they come through on an RDA, but it is a similar sort of thing, but I would say that this is even
Yeah,
less impactful than the other
This
one.
is a clear beach that's right on the corner, right on the street, right across from their home, and there's no trees, no vegetation that would have to be impacted at all.
Yeah, and the poles that go down and it would quite literally just touch the dirt just to like for it to sit on. I wouldn't have to, cause I know they do make the poles like docks like that where they have like the auger that like goes into the ground, but it's just gonna just sit on the top of the surface.
And it's a sandy bottom there?
Yeah, I think so. It's it's like sand and
Okay.
all sorts of stuff.
And there was one question about it being removed, I mean, there are permanent docks all over that lake. I don't think that we would require a removal, correct?
I don't feel any way about it.
How much,
Iron oxide, is it?
Galvanized.
Oh, it's still gonna rust eventually.
I'm going back, I was used to be like on the Conservation Commission in Falmouth, so we had dock applications in front of us all the time. Mostly having to do with motorboats. What's your usage of the dock? Is it for boats, is it just for swimming, with fishing, with what's?
So
Paddleboarding and fishing.
yeah, so I have a little 12-foot John boat, but they don't allow gas motors on the lake, so it's no issues with like wake or anything like that. So it's just a little trolling motor.
Yeah, so the issue with the motors is that they scour the bottom, if it's too shallow, it scours the bottom and it ruins the habitat, so,
Yeah, no, it's just a
Not
little
an issue
trolling
then.
motor. The fans on it are like that big, if that.
okay.
And I just make sure to pull it up and move them and stuff.
Okay, Bob, any questions?
I'm just, I don't know the legality, I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I imagine this is kind of grandfathered on a lake or an association that you can replace
It's
it.
replacing in kind, it's the same thing as the tennis court, it's basically replacing in kind.
Yeah, so I took out the one that fell apart and was becoming a hazard because people sometimes go and fish there, and so I had to get approval to remove it, and then obviously want to replace it because I fish a lot on the lake.
And you're not going out another 15 feet
No,
or anything?
it's going to be a much 10 feet shorter than it was existing.
So, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that we're doing it right.
I appreciate it, very much.
Yeah, thanks for coming before again.
Anybody else? Okay. Would anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Nothing? Okay,
Oh,
Go
that's
ahead.
Nick's.
good.
Oh, thank you.
Oh.
Thanks, Bob.
Go ahead and close the hearing. Nick, what do you have for us?
Yeah, so based on the hearing and my driving by the property many times before and seeing the area, I just recommend a -2 finding that it's within our jurisdiction, but it's not gonna alter the area.
Okay.
It's basically they're just putting the dock out there that was there before, so.
And then I didn't recall anybody here having any special conditions.
No, I don't, yeah,
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't have any.
Just wanna make sure. So we're sure to miss anything. Okay, so then I'll accept a motion for a -2 determination for this project as described by the agent.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jim.
Second.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Bob. Take the rest of the commission's vote by roll call. Mike Seeke.
Aye.
And Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Alright.
Make that determination. Later
Oh,
this
just
week.
real quick, when are you doing this fall, are you doing it next spring, when are you thinking of
We're
doing?
hoping to do it this fall. It was
Okay.
actually a gift on our registry to contribute to a new dock fund when we got married this summer. So we're
Nice.
hoping to get that in before the winter. That'd be nice.
Alright, I hope you had a nice wedding.
Thank you. We did.
So do
wow.
we need to call to have you come before we start,
No,
before I
that's-
put it in?
That was just a condition that we put on the other project. This has no conditions on it. As long as you're doing, I appreciate that. As long as you're doing as you described it, you got nothing to worry about from here. So.
If things change substantially, let Nick know, but other than that, then, you
And you can keep it in, take it out.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Yeah, if you start dredging for the cabin cruiser.
Yeah, then let us know.
And sorry, Nick, who do I make the check out? Do I make it to?
Make out to Chuck Raymond, no, I'm sorry.
Just the city of Leominster,
Okay.
because we put the ad in and this is just to reimburse the city for that.
I won't break the check and waste everybody's time, but I'll sit over there.
Super. Alrighty,
All right. Thank you.
thanks folks,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Alright, moving on then, last new hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a request for determination of applicability for the installation of an in-ground pool in a wetland buffer zone. Address 49 Sky Lane, map and parcel 369-14-9. That's a brand new number, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then we here to represent the project. Come on up and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Brianna Weigel, and I'm here in place of Matt Marrow. I am the conservation agent in Sterling and
Okay.
Rutland currently. I'm sorry, I don't have copies for each of you, but I can
Pass it around.
pass this around if that's okay.
Buffer on there.
Oh.
The,
Perfect. Yeah, so we
And what is that?
That's just a sketch, Ed Snyder Pools, sketch of the pool project.
Okay.
So yes, we're proposing to put in an in-ground pool, a patio, and also a walkway. The patio and the walkway will be directly behind the house, you'll see that in the sketch, and the pool will be as well. The erosion controls that Matt is proposing is a silt fence, and the closest limit of work is 45 feet from the wetland.
Okay.
And the wetland boundary was delineated by Matt.
Okay.
I think maybe a month ago or so. So yeah, there is very limited grading going on, about 1 foot to 1.5 feet where the pool will be installed.
Pretty flat area.
Yeah, but there's
Slope to the wetland.
but there will be no grading for the patio or the walkway. So
So just a little adjusting of the slope for the pool itself.
for the pool itself.
Okay.
Yep.
Alright. That it?
Pretty much, I mean, there's no certified or potential vernal pools, there's no rare species habitat, anything like that, so.
Okay.
And it's all an existing lawn, so,
Yeah, I was looking at it on Google Earth.
Yeah.
And I noticed that is a good sized lawn area and there are other neighbors nearby that also have in-ground pools.
yes,
It would so-
exactly,
Be of a similar nature to those that I saw on Google Earth.
yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes.
The direct neighbor, uphill has a small pool, I think he's maybe slightly closer
Okay.
proximity.
Yeah, that's what Matt mentioned to me as well.
So that,
About 3
this
years
little
ago.
horseshoe thing, that's the limit of work?
Yep, that'd be siltation, yeah,
So, okay.
so fence, yeah.
And then that's the wetland right there?
Yep.
Good.
And I apologize to the commission here, I didn't put it on the drive, but I was there earlier today, I took some photos of the area if you're curious.
That's a big one.
Chuck, if I may.
You please, yes.
So I did notice on the drawing for the erosion controls that Matt has them
That's
designed to be
what
dug in and buried 6
Yep.
inches?
We still-
Sometimes that causes, that might not be necessary, in my mind, and for everybody else's opinion. Sometimes that causes more problems than just putting a straw wattle in front of it, which are not expensive. So rather than digging it in and causing some excavation, I would think that a straw wattle would in front of the silt fence unless people are objecting.
So we should avoid advising specific, like, we're not here to propose projects, they're here to propose to us, so we can suggest like, or require things like erosion control, but we can't say like, you have to do this, or you have to do that.
No, that wasn't my point, but thank you for
Okay,
that clarity. My point was to cause some excavation to happen,
Mhm.
it doesn't necessarily need to happen, it was my point.
okay. I'm sorry, I came in halfway through that.
You're saying not digging in for the lower flap.
So you've got
Okay,
to
yeah.
dig a trench to bury that stuff, and
Yeah.
it sometimes causes more problems than.
Sure.
As my wife would say, let him finish.
Excuse me.
No worries. Well, I mean, look, this looks to be a pretty straightforward project, appreciate the maps in the area. Something I wanted to say about Matt. Oh, in terms of the erosion control barrier. We obviously, we know Matt for a while, Matt knows us, Matt's been doing this for a while, I certainly trust his judgment on what's effective there, so. Works.
Yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from. I mean, I can let him know that straw wattles are favorable in the commission's eyes, but I mean, silt fence is a very good erosion
Sure.
control
Oh, it is, yeah.
measure, so yeah, I mean, I like silt fence when I'm doing agent work. I don't like straw wattles to be
Well, see, my,
honest.
if I could, my point was to dig the erosion controls in requires some level of
Yeah.
excavation. To put this, I would not say don't have the silt fence there, but put a
Yeah.
straw wattle in front of it would be less disturbance.
Yeah. I like
But
filters honestly.
again, we're not here to recommend
Right.
erosion controls, that was my only concern. If you don't have to dig, don't dig. That would be my opinion.
Almost right, Jim, Bob, any?
I just wanted to check, you gave out an amount of 45 feet.
Yep,
Could you
that's the,
clarify? I didn't quite hear that completely.
yeah, that's the closest the limit of work will get to the edge of the wetland is 45 feet.
To the edge of what?
Edge of the wetland.
The wetland boundary. Mhm.
Okay, yeah, the boundary that's already marked, or?
Yes, he delineated it.
So is this within a 100-foot buffer zone?
Yeah.
Area of the pool, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all, I just wanted to.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Just so the board knows, it is a non-backwashing filter system, cartridge filter. So it will be-
I don't know what that means, but I trust you.
Salt water,
Salt water, 2,500 parts per million.
so no discharge into the.
No discharge.
Good enough. Everybody all set? Jim?
Does it stay open through the winter with salt water?
Unfortunately not.
It's gonna be
10
saltwater.
times less.
It's gonna be saltwater pool?
It is, yeah. It's 10 times less salinity than the ocean though.
Gotcha,
You know, it's
okay.
very slight to the taste. Yeah,
Super,
yeah.
You have to be pretty salty to stay there.
Yes.
Can't steam clams in it or.
Right, yeah.
Alright, so anybody, permission all set?
Okay.
Anybody in the audience have any comments or questions? No, okay. With that, Nick, I'll ask you for some guidance.
So yeah, I visited the site today. It is all existing lawn. I would back up the kind of rough estimates of numbers and distances that we heard today. That all seems to check out from what I saw. I would suggest either -2 or -3 determination. I'm leaning a little more towards -3 just to put the condition of some type of erosion control barrier. I know Matt's involved with this and he knows to do that.
Well, then what kind of motion do I ask for?
So I would recommend that the commission vote a -3 determination with a condition that we require some sort of erosion control between the limit of work and the wetland area.
I thought they had,
The silt fence.
I thought they already had that.
Oh, that's proposed specific, okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
proposal.
that's-
Excuse me,
It's in the proposal.
then a -2 determination.
Yeah.
Negative
Because
two.
we've already got that, so, yeah,
Okay.
excuse me.
Nick, if I may,
Mhm.
48 hour for inspection before prior to work for silt
I would
fence.
I would appreciate
Sure.
that, yeah.
Yeah, there's a good amount of digging going on, so
Mhm.
that would be warranted.
So we don't need to put those conditions on
No,
necessarily, but yeah, I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
No problem.
Alright, so with that, I'll accept a motion for a -2 determination for the proposed project.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mike.
Alright, I'll take the rest of the commission's vote by roll call, Jim Chambers
Aye.
and Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
And with that, we find a -2 determination.
Alright,
Thank you.
thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Good luck. Oh, you been doing that this fall, by the way?
Yeah, we're hoping to, 2 weeks.
Okay.
Just some extra salt then, so it's gonna have it through the winter.
They like that.
Have a good
Thank you.
night.
Thanks for meeting you.
Here to do that.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Alright. Moving on to continued hearings. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a notice of intent for the construction of a 21-unit apartment building in the wetland buffer and riverfront area of Fall Brook. Address Brooks Pond Road, Lot 8A, map and parcel 317-5D-1, and no DEP
So
number.
this was put out before the file number was out, but it was, the file number is 199-1184.
Okay. And I don't think I was at if this is continued, I don't think I was at the initial hearing. So I don't know if I can vote on this, if we do take a vote tonight.
I'm gonna be, well, we'll get there, but I'm gonna recommend that we don't, have a final vote on it
Okay.
tonight. But,
Okay.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah, no, so I will.
I'm sorry, introduce yourself, please.
Sorry, again. Chris Anderson, Hannigan Engineering.
Thank you, Chris.
So I re-watched the hearing. The meeting was actually closed and it was voted on.
Was it?
Yep.
Okay.
So with that being said,
I know there was a discussion of that.
yeah, there was a discussion and there was a vote. So
What meeting?
The initial meeting for this here, because this is a continued hearing for this.
But it was open.
It was open previously, because they had initiated this hearing before, it's a continued hearing. But he said, and I know there was a discussion at the time, I think Rich had brought up maybe voting on it. And I thought that we had gotten to a point where we continued this.
okay, I might be mistaken, but
I'll double check
Yeah.
that just to be sure.
but nonetheless,
Okay.
I can.
But I know there are comments from the DEP though, so.
Yeah, so, okay, that kind of. Alright, give me one second here, so, yeah, there were comments from DEP, I can read those into the record here.
I have copies too.
Yeah, the printout, yeah, I'll stick it.
I have it up on my phone.
So run away. Alright, so the comments from DEP were, what is the cumulative riverfront area that has been impacted at this location from previous projects since 1996? Will the total riverfront area impact from all projects since 1996, including the current project, exceed 10% or 5,000 square feet? Does the total RFA or riverfront area alteration listed on the notice of intent include the expansion of stormwater best management practices? Surface basins and mitigation may be deducted from riverfront area impact calculations towards the 10%, provided there is not a practical alternative, but should still be quantified for review. Please provide the quantified area of alteration to riverfront area. And also, an alternatives analysis is required for work in riverfront area and should explore multiple options and evaluate feasibility. The applicant did not appear to have submitted an alternatives analysis to Mass DEP. The box on the NOI form is checked but was not uploaded. Please see 310 CMR 10.584C, quote, the alternatives analysis may reduce the scale of the activity, unquote. All proposed alternatives must also meet performance standards. It goes on to say, if seeking redevelopment status, please demonstrate how the project complies with 10.585A through E. Please note the department does not consider lawn areas to be degraded. Low impact development does not include deep sump catch basins, proprietary water quality devices, underground storage systems, infiltration basins, or sediment forebays. Total suspended solids treatment chain information does not appear to include an infiltration basins. Are they being used to treat total suspended solids? Each treatment train requires a separate worksheet. End of comment. So,
That being said, I can easily go over the comments with the commission. I know we're missing 2 members that were here last, and we have 2 members who are not here. So it's a very complicated situation. But since we had the last hearing, we had conversations with Kim Roth over at DEP. What we did was we recreated the stormwater analysis that was done back in 1996. For members who were not aware of the history of stormwater, back then there was never really a policy, system or anything like that. It was considered a policy. It was really wishy-washy, didn't really stand up to much. Fast forward to 2008, stormwater management came into practice, and that became law. At that point, we had to do everything. The entire site was built and designed prior to the implementation of the 2008 standard. So a lot of the structures that are there now don't really comply, per se, per the current regulations.
Oh, they're not grandfathered in or anything.
They are grandfathered.
They are grandfathered.
Because they're already in the ground.
Okay.
So what we're doing as part of the project is improving upon them to make them more viable for stormwater management. So that's what the stormwater analysis kind of went through, and we provided that to DEP, and the compliance that we have provided with all the regulations. So I believe closing might have been premature, and I should have caught on to it a lot faster than I did. But we did provide the stormwater analysis. We do have a working riverfront area calculation impact for the cumulative project over the last 20 some odd years. So we can provide that. The alternatives analysis, we can write a quick little blurb into that as well, but verbally for the purpose of the commission. For lot 8A, the only alternative really is not doing the stormwater improvements, which we feel would be against the intents of the regulations to try to beef up the system as much as we can with the restrictions that we have currently on the site. We're not seeking redevelopment status anymore. We're not including any of the LIDs, and we did provide TSS treatment chain calculations for the stormwater features within the stormwater analysis, which we can provide more precisely, if you will, outside the report. But with that being said, I know Nick and I had a conversation earlier this evening. We can provide those in a written format to the board or to the commission prior to the next hearing. But we believe at this point, Lot 8A is approved. We are coming back before the commission for Lot 9A, which is it's a 2-part project, 2 different lots, 2 different filings, the whole 9 yards. So we will be definitely providing the full stormwater analysis for Lot 9A because the only work that was for Lot 8A, the one that's on the agenda now, was just for the expansion of the stormwater system, which is technically exempt from from the riverfront area calculations. So we're kind of stuck in a catch-22, if you will, on everything. But if it's acceptable to the commission, we can provide written responses to this prior to the next meeting. And we can double check on the status of whether or not it's been approved or not.
Right.
Again, I apologize. I should have caught on at the hearing. I probably was flustered or doing something, trying to catch up for the next hearing. But that's where we stand right now on that entire process.
And so who else besides me was on at the initial hearing? You said 2? Oh, it was Rich.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, I will go. I will make a point then before the next hearing, then to go back and watch the initial one so that I can actually vote. Christo, explain to me I think I got this right. Your only alternative is not to do stormwater improvements. What does that mean?
So part of the project is we are, lack of a better term, beefing up the existing.
Did I get that right? That was
Correct.
okay.
Yeah. So the only riverfront work that we're doing is beefing up the stormwater basin. Currently it's.
The existing stormwater basin.
Yeah.
Which is really just basically it's for to a layman's eye, it looks like a hole in the ground, right?
It looks like a hole in the ground right now. It was sized moderately to accommodate the stormwater flows that were coming before back then.
Yeah.
It was done by another engineering company, and we tried to absorbed a lot of those records when they went out of business. We can't find it in any of our records. The city has no record of it, so it's pretty much gone to the wind. So we redeveloped.
So the stormwater detention basin doesn't work, is that what you're saying?
It does work.
Yeah.
It just doesn't meet the current standards because it
Got
was
it,
designed
okay.
before the current
Got it,
standards.
alright.
So it does function. It does do its job. It doesn't do it as well as we would do it now.
Okay.
If this was a new project, this basin would never have been brought before.
Okay.
Chris, how did it do in the last storm?
Held up. I can't say the same for the pond, but that held up.
There you go.
So what we're doing for this project is enlarging it significantly.
Okay.
Almost 33,000 cubic feet.
Okay.
So it's not an insignificant change that we're doing.
So I would assume, pardon me for interrupting, but I would assume when the DEP said LID does not include a handful of things, that they're talking about what you're planning on doing to that basin, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So LIDs would be rain gardens, grass
Right,
swales,
right,
stuff
right.
like that, which we're not really.
So had you referred to this infiltration basin as an LID technique?
No.
Okay, so that was just them stating as a matter of right, okay.
There is an infiltration basin on site, but this is not the basin that is the
Okay.
infiltration basin.
But they're saying infiltration basins are not LID techniques.
Correct.
Okay.
So what we're doing for the project is effectively beefing it up, making it bigger, making it to hold back more water.
Okay.
So it provides a little bit more compliance.
Okay.
When we do the peak rates, it all drops, so it's doing that intense. We're providing additional measures to infiltrate groundwater or infiltrate runoff back into the ground to provide recharge capacity, and we're also putting in additional treatment features to reduce the TSS removal.
Okay.
So it's more of a retention pond, detention pond?
It is completely a detention pond, but the best way to think of it is it's almost like a straight shot through the basin, but with the basin, the outlet pipes throttle it back, so it goes out at a slower rate than it is coming out. So what we're doing is we're increasing that to reduce the rate of it exiting the basin.
So it's delayed.
That's I don't want to say it this way, but stormwater is all about delay.
And where does it discharge to?
It discharges to a broad grassed area
Okay.
/ brush area that eventually gets into Fall Brook.
Okay. Alright. There's no active treatment involved in there, just literally just detaining it and sending it out slowly. Okay.
Correct, because that was what stormwater policy at that time
Yeah.
dictated.
Okay.
Just, how did the system handle the storm,
It held
the
up.
current system?
Yeah, it held up.
Okay, so that wasn't part of the Malvern Lancaster Street issue?
No, that site experienced a whole another issue.
Well, I know
I'll be bringing it forward for you guys shortly.
Fallbrook goes around down that way, right?
Well, Fall Brook used to go through a pond
Yeah,
that is no longer a
Yeah.
pond.
right.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Comments, questions?
Yeah, Chris, this is for a notice of intent for lot 8A, right?
Correct.
Okay. And there are existing structures on that lot right now?
Correct. There's several existing structures that are going to be raised, as well as areas for parking and access to the community farm down to the lower levels. So it's within a very disturbed area. It's been used as it was permitted back in dawn time. So we're just kind of removing some of the buildings, paving over and reconfiguring the parking to make it all work.
How much are you increasing the impermeable area?
On this lot,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, it's only by a few thousand square feet.
Okay. Alright.
It's like just
the riverfront area just cuts through the corner of the
Corner,
building.
Yeah, it's just, we set the building corner about 2 feet off the riverfront.
Okay.
So the building is outside, it's all just grass and basin work.
Okay, alright. How about, Jim, you all set?
Yes.
Okay. With that, is anybody in the audience that has any comments or questions about the project? No? Okay. Alrighty. Nick, what are your recommendations? Oh, don't talk, we're gonna continue it, correct?
Well, yeah, that's my recommendation. So based on,
Yeah, I would like to see, like you said, your written
Yeah,
response
so-
to DEP comments.
in light of the possible closing of this hearing already, I'm gonna review that video very carefully and just make sure what was voted on, was in fact a continuation and not a closing. Assuming that it has been continued previously, I would recommend that the commission continue the hearing again at this time until we're able to get that other NOI for lot 9A.
So 9A is still a little further down the road, but
Okay.
the riverfront analysis for this and that are gonna be exactly the same.
Yeah, for the second notice of intent project coming out of Brooks Pond, that's gonna include all those kind of hard numbers that Mass DEP was looking for.
So whatever document we prepare in response to this, we're just gonna copy it and throw it in the same
Okay.
notes with that.
But yeah, so but as I said, I would like to see the written response to DEP comments.
To say that a little more cleanly, I would recommend that we continue this hearing until the other notice of intent for this property is brought up and some of those comments are addressed, at which time we can vote on both NOIs at the same time, or at the same meeting.
Does that work for you, Chris?
Sure.
Okay.
Nick, do I have to watch that too? Because I didn't, I'm not.
I think we all should.
You would be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Alright, then I'll ask for a motion then to continue this hearing until the other NOI is brought up, is that how we should word it?
Until the other notice of intent for this property is brought to a vote, yeah.
That is the motion that I'll request then.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mike, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Bob.
Alright, I'll take the rest of the commission's vote by roll call, Jim Chambers
Aye.
and Chuck Raymond.
Aye. And Chris, just FYI, any idea when that other NOI will be?
I'll try to fast track that.
Okay, so it may or may not be the next.
I guess probably.
Well,
should-
actually,
Probably should have done this before the vote, but if we can at least get it in, the notice of intent in, I know there's always the advertisement delays and stuff
yeah,
like
well,
that.
the deadline to submit was last Friday anyways.
Exactly, so if I can at least get it in, the notice of intent in hand,
The next deadline
Be a week from Friday, right?
for, a week from Friday will be the deadline for October 24th.
okay. Alright, I can see what I can do.
So we'll see you in October or November.
So-
Or, I mean, you're not, you're
I'm
still
around.
Yeah. I'll be seeing you.
Oh, you'll definitely see me.
Thanks, Chris.
Sooner than we should.
Yeah, give me 5 minutes, I'll be there.
Alright, moving on, under enforcement, Harwood Terrace, Bobrick stormwater analysis, so, based, on that 10 inches, 11 inches of rain that we got, one can see the importance of wetlands. We probably would have been a heck of a lot more damage in the city than there was if we hadn't been, over the past several decades, trying to protect the wetlands we have, so. Hopefully you can all see the value of wetlands in the city and anywhere else for that matter. That said, sir, introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Brendan Pyburn with Bulbrick Engineering Construction.
Brendan?
Brendan.
Okay, thank you, Brendan.
We were hired by the commission to do a review of 60 Harwood Terrace in response to a violation notice issued by the commission. Obviously, you guys know the general background of the site, but I can do a quick rundown of our observations. And in summary, the site has a very large slope off to the western side, which before the construction started flowed naturally following channels throughout the landscape and seeking a wetland on the downslope side of the property and eventually connecting to the city system. As a part of the design, the driveway basically cuts through mid-slope. So in response to that, the design was to
capture and collect stormwater runoff from the upstream side of the driveway, kind of channelize it into two. I'm just focusing on the driveway portion of it, which is directly impacted to the adjacent wetland. Two main collection areas and out onto the downslope side of the roadway. Our understanding in about, I think the April-May timeframe, there was a slope failure on the downslope side of the driveway that appeared to be the result of saturating of the driveway and the grassy slope just letting go, which caused sediment to basically rush down the hill into the adjacent wetland. And I know there was buildup in abutting properties and some flooding in the downslope wetland area. So since then, we did a site walk, I believe it was August 1st. Yeah, August 1st, we went out and there had been some remediation done by the property owner, immediately focusing on that slope failure. So since then, do you guys all have the packet that was emailed or?
The draft
Yes.
letter. I believe I sent that out to everyone, but I don't have it printed out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I to be honest, I have not read it yet, I haven't looked at
Okay.
it. I apologize.
That's fine. So in that, in the attachments, there's images of some of the remediation that was done. One of which I can just turn around is a large riprap slope and essentially a plunge pool at one of the larger outlets. That intent is to basically slow down the water and eliminate the discharge coming out of that pipe from blowing down into the wetland. And that riprap is also carried up the slope all the way to the surface of the driveway. So should the event of water overtopping from the upstream side occur again, that slope is stabilized with larger riprap. A part of this as well, the natural, well, I suppose, as I learned, it's not a natural channel through the wetland, it was a man-made channel back years ago, correct?
Like, 60, 70 years ago, we've been told, yeah.
So a part of this work was kind of lightly, essentially dredging out this channel to provide more capacity for runoff that just natural leaves and sediments and branches have occurred over time. So between the failure that occurred and the natural buildup of sediment, this channel had kind of lost its capacity. So this channel was dug out and basically it's now a nice natural flowing channel, which as of today, there is not any stone stabilization in the bottom of it, but based on discussions with the property owner, that will take place once kind of everyone agrees on a path forward. So that's the general outline of the major concern area on the property. Some other areas, there's some sediment buildup up against erosion control fencing, and just kind of it appears to be more natural sediment buildup of a not fully stabilized site, not a full failure like what was seen in this location. So paired with our site visit, we also requested stormwater analysis from the design engineer, which we reviewed, and it appears in general, the general flow of water is, like I said, to be collected in a few different areas, one being a settling area with an outlet structure that discharges downstream. The other portion of the driveway is collected by a swale and then through an outlet structure and out. It appears that maybe in the design, and this could be corrected if I'm interpreting it incorrectly, it was modeled that the stormwater was flowing down the big slope side into the swale and directly into a discharge pipe, not really accounting for any pooling or ponding that might be occurring. So we really estimated areas and things like that based off PDFs. And what we were seeing was kind of recreating that situation that happened earlier this year, that overtopping over the roadway. So that's kind of where we're at now. In general, I think the approach that was done on the downslope side to mitigate the runoff and the discharge right before the wetland is great, and it's a good step forward. I also do think that on the upstream side, a similar approach might also need to be implemented to adequately control the runoff before it gets to that outlet control structure to eliminate the overtopping of the driveway. Again, this is obviously an open discussion and conversation, but that is in general what we are seeing from the documents we were provided in our site walks. I don't know if you have any questions for me right now.
Well, first question I have is, how did this site hold up after the notorious rainstorm a couple weeks ago?
So I came back out, so we did an initial site visit in August.
Mhm.
I came back out last, I think it was Thursday maybe. And it appeared like everything was in good shape. I think there was some sediment, like I said, built up around,
There's no way they couldn't be.
Yeah, right, exactly, and that's gonna happen, like I said, the site's not fully stabilized and the whole, I mean, it was a disaster.
Yeah.
But this slope stabilization held up.
Seems to have worked.
It didn't appear to be any major erosion right around here, other than just kind of like that natural scouring of
Mhm.
what's to be expected with that amount of rainfall.
Okay.
I mean, you can't really design for something like that.
And I hate to even come close to conflating the two issues, but Nick, I think I asked you this question. The recurring problem of flooding on, name of the road? Hillary. What happened there with the branch storm a couple weeks ago?
As
What
far as
what
I can,
usually
it's just the normal type of thing, you had a big pond forming along West Street that blocked traffic going down there. Ponding along Hillary Street, that's not as severe, but still ponding pretty significantly.
Okay.
And then it all kind of slowly drained out.
Slowly drained away, yeah. Yeah, the reason that I said I hate to conflate the two is because it's obvious that the stormwater management system in that street paved area is wholly inadequate and it needs to be addressed. So I hated to bring those two topics up at the same time, but I was just curious what that area looked like after the last storm. I don't have any specific questions for Brendan. What's your last name, Brendan?
Pyburn.
Mr. Piper. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns?
I do. Well, I had a question about the upside. It's not kind of defined enough for me again. What was your idea for the upside slope?
So the upstream side of the driveway, again, just focusing on the driveway portion of it.
Towards the hill.
There's the large slope
Yeah.
that goes off to the west.
Yeah.
It naturally follows like any kind of mountainous terrain. It finds its way down through various channels and things like that. So in general, that was maintained until it reaches the side of the driveway, and then it was channelized into two different spots. One being closer to the house has they're referred to as a settling area on the plan. So that is designed to capture and collect the water from that designated catchment area, hold it for a certain amount of time, and then discharge out the outlet pipe on the downstream side of the driveway.
The outlet pipe goes under the driveway?
Under the driveway now. That's the outlet that didn't appear to have too terribly much of erosion or sediment buildup. Kind of, there was definitely some there, but not much more than might be expected. It just needs to be cleaned up and maintained.
Okay.
The other area of the driveway kind of runs along the majority of the driveway on the upstream side, and it collects the water in a swale flowing down to an outlet control structure, and then again discharges under the driveway out to the downstream side. That's the area that experienced the big failure the first time around, I believe in April.
So there was a sedimentation observed in April, May that led to the first violation notice.
Okay.
And then after that, the failure of the driveway occurred on July 16th, so that
Okay.
was the exact date, yeah. So we were already involved with this, and then the failure
Gotcha.
occurred, yeah.
So that's the general drainage design of the driveway area.
Okay. Well, that was my major thinking of when I first got on the project and looked at what possibly could be done. When you started scouring in the neighbors, along with the siltation built up over the years and was obviously gonna go somewhere.
Right.
I think it held up very well. I extensively went through, and Josh helped me a few times, and I walked the property that's for sale, without the house on it, between the two houses. And there was a lot of sediment. I mean, it had to go somewhere, but it drove right through that lot.
Right.
But other than that, Josh had to do some repair on a few sections. That storm was horrific. I said a 50 or 100. The mayor said it was a 500-year event. It was quite impressive in my area too. But I thought it held up really well for what the preventive measures you did from the first time, and that was impressive in itself. But I like your idea there. I just want to say I like it. I'm not an engineer, and I don't speak to.
You don't even play one on TV, do you? For my own clarification, Nick, what were we hoping for an outcome tonight after Brendan's presentation? What are we hoping to get to?
have a general discussion about the findings, see how, Anderson receives it, see how, Mr. Brennicky receives it, and come up with a path forward to require of Mr. Brennicky to basically correct for the initial violation,
Okay.
or to kind of wrap all this up and
Yeah, I
see what their recommendations are.
It
Yeah.
seems to me that one of the things that we can do, that Mr. Brennicky can do, because obviously this issue arose because what was once a wooded slope is now no longer a wooded slope. So you've got surface soils that are exposed to the elements, direct rain and runoff. Sooner we can get that slope revegetated, the better. I don't know if there's, I'm not sure how much jurisdiction that we have as a commission to revegetate that slope, but Josh, if I was just, as on a personal basis.
Yep.
There's something you can do to hasten the revegetation of that slope, to stabilize it, and I think that a lot of these, if not most of these issues, will go away at that. That was my kind of personal statement. So Chris, did you have something?
Yeah, no, thank you.
I was
Good
just,
thought.
just to, what slope are you referring to?
The whole slope that was both up, both.
Downstream, between the driveway and the wetlands?
Either, because they were both fully vegetated, they obviously were fully covered in trees. Trees all taken off and you put a driveway through, which you were perfectly permitted to do. But now you've got these bare slopes out that are exposed to the elements, things are gonna happen there that wouldn't have happened if the trees hadn't been taken out. So the quicker that those slopes can be revegetated, whether it's grass, trees, bushes, something to lessen the impact of rain and runoff on that slope. That's more of a personal statement than a statement as the chairman of the Conservation Commission.
So, just real quick on some of that, so the slope is vegetated, there's grass and, various weeds and wildflowers, things that are popping out there, and there's juice.
Last time I was there was when I saw you a couple months ago, so.
It's,
I haven't been there
fully
since.
grassed out.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all grown in,
Okay.
it's,
You can walk up it,
yeah, it's what we would consider stabilized,
Oh,
like
alright,
at any
okay.
other site.
Then maybe what I said was premature,
it's okay, that's good.
unneeded then.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think your general point that you're making is that, the area is in a state of disturbance right now,
Right.
it's not finished, so everyone's best interest is to get this kind of wrapped up and
Correct.
and tied up as quickly as possible in the best way.
If I could, Dick, we've kind of been on straddling.
I'm sorry, introduce yourself.
Josh Brennicky, I'm the property owner at
Thank you.
60 Harwood Terrace.
Mhm.
I think we've been kind of walking the balancing act between like trying to figure out what we need to do next and how we got into the state and like checking the math to make sure that the original plan, I think that was part of why Bobrecht's organization was brought in to kind of verify and make sure we were doing our due diligence to make sure that the plan seemed adequate and
Yeah.
appropriate for the measures that were taken.
Yeah.
I think that we've gotten verification now or validation that at least the plan seemed sound, that there was a good approach that was in place for that. It wasn't like any kind of a negligent kind of design plan that was originally approved. And so now it's kind of getting into the tweaking what needs to be done. I've been a proponent of trying to find a way of making sure that man-made channel that we have going through there. And I think that the reason that I'm hypothesizing a little bit here, but I believe that the reason that channel is there was to try and keep the water moving into the areas where the property owner at that time had that area, right? So 50 Hillary Road is directly downstream of the traversing channel. And if you know, anytime you're having a traversing channel along the side of a hill, if it tops its banks, it's never going back into that channel. So it's gonna go downhill, and what's directly downhill is 50 Hillary. And that's where, when we had that catastrophic failure of the slope, that was an impact of that. But it was also because that channel was never really reinforced to be able to protect that. It was kind of left as is. It just kind of went on its natural way, and the year before we had a very minimal rainfall, so we didn't have a lot of activity to keep that channel deeper. It kind of grew in a little bit with some vegetation, it lost some of its capacity, and then the next year, we get all kinds of rain, and now it just was
And you
over.
had trees falling across the channel. and
Yeah,
flooding.
exactly, yeah, and I think that was also one of the earlier concerns, that I think we've kind of put those two things to bed, I think at this point, I think it's fair to say. The original one that caused Ian problem was the tree trunks that were crossing.
Yeah.
The problems that Miss Moses was having, has been, like, she hasn't had, my understanding is she hasn't had any issues for either of the two 7-inch or the 9-inch rainstorms. It was a different issue, circumstantial, understandably, but it was not a correlation between the work that was done on the project. So both of those kind of concerns over the neighbor impact were not attributable to the design of what was implemented on the property. I am wholeheartedly willing to do what we can to try and stabilize that. I think we've done that with deepening that channel a little bit, providing the riprap to make sure that we did that in a way that, albeit not the greatest looking thing, it's the right thing to do there. It's just like, there's too much risk of something happening with that slope if it's not done in a way that's long-term sustainable. So despite the fact that it's this big, huge rock slide in the property that I'm not a big fan of, it is the right thing to have there, and I'm fine with that.
Okay.
As is the deepening of the channel, but originally we were told we can't do that.
Yeah.
And then we realized, well, maybe we should, so
Maybe
we've
we
done
have
that.
to, yeah.
So I think we're gonna end up clearing out the sediment downstream further than that. Ideally, I think we should reinforce that channel a little bit as well, to make sure that, but the problem still for me remains, what are we doing with the water at the end of that channel? Because that's been kind of the sticking point, but that gets outside of my property, and that's more of a city stormwater kind of area, because West Street was bad with this 9-inch storm. I mean, it was flooded more than I've ever seen it there.
Okay.
And I've been looking at stuff for 2, and now I've not been here for 20 years, but I've been here for 2, and I've seen a 7 and a 9 within 3 months of each other.
Yeah.
7-inch storm, 9-inch storm, within a very short period, very intense rainstorms.
Yeah.
And I've seen what's happening with the flooding, and there's way more things involved, and obviously the whole city was shut down because of the 9-inch storm.
Yeah.
And the property did okay.
Okay.
And Ian didn't have anything that was really cascading from his side. Again, this Moses.
And I'm sorry, who's Ian?
Ian Frazier's the 50 Hillary Road.
Thank you.
Yep,
Okay.
yeah, so he's the one that originally had, where those 2 logs were crossing.
Yeah.
He was the one that had all the water coming down into his backyard.
Got it.
I think naturally, that water probably was going down to 50.
Okay.
I mean, if that channel wouldn't have been put in there, the water that was coming off the hill would have just been continuing down through the wetlands right into the 50 Hillary's backyard, and that would have just been the natural state of things.
Okay.
And that's where some of that man-made redirecting has
Sure.
happened. And we're trying to just continue that effort.
Thank you, Josh. Chris, have you had a chance to see Boberg's report?
No, I did, and I apologize, we've been, as you know, crazy here for the last 2 weeks, so. I did review it, nothing too much concern, I think it's more clarification on how we developed the site plan and the drainage system. So I've been a part of the project since I started with Hannigan. But there used to be an old cart road that the farmer put in way back when, and there was little spouts of water coming down all over the place. And there was one concentrated area, which is where that structure is, and if you go out there now, it's probably ripping crazy. So the intent of the driveway design is to kind of run along that same path. We put bleeder subdrains in the swale to kind of try to mimic the little bleeder veins, if you will, that came down the hill. What happened during the July event was that it was an extraordinary amount of water. I think it was on the order of 7 inches. It sat on top of the driveway because right now it's in construction. And what happened was that the hydraulic head built on the structure, which forced the water to circumvent the subdrain system and conduit flow along the pipe. At that point, you had the failure playing at the pipe, and then it flooding on top, kind of cascaded down, and a perfect storm of chaos and insanity, it blew out. That's when we did the fix there. So that's the Bang swale design, that's how we came up with it. The settling basin, I think I probably could have defined it better, but it's more like a splash pad, if you will. So all the water comes down there, and in my experience, if I was just to put a pipe there, smaller storm events probably would work fine, but in these larger events that we're seeing, it would have flooded, created chaos around the driveway, and probably would have caused another failure similar to what we saw down in the big one. So what I designed that with the intent of being is more like a absorption, so all the water comes down into there. In large events, it slows down before it gets into the pipe, so we don't have an overturning onto the driveway. And then allows for the slow release out of the site. So it wasn't really meant to be a storage capacity feature, but more as a slowing down feature. So by the time it gets into the pipe, it's not overwhelming the pipe.
Yeah.
Does that make?
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense. So that was one of my questions was, I think I noticed in the model, I don't think that portion of that slowing down was modeled.
Yeah.
It shows it from the swale or collection point, subcatchment in that area, going right into the discharge pipe.
Yeah.
So none of that like ponding is occurring.
Yeah.
So that was one of the clarifications that we were trying to look for, is just to confirm that by creating that pond, are we now creating a potential for the overtopping? Because that's what we were seeing when we were just roughly doing it. And obviously looking out for the wetland downstream, we're just trying to make sure that's not the same as your intent. Just making sure that nothing is overtopping that road and blowing down that slope. Because we saw kind of a similar thing happening with that swale.
Yeah. And
So
the swale right now is also needs to be a couple extra cores put into it. So that's still kind of in limbo.
okay.
But the driveway's not done. The whole system's not truly complete. And you noted it, there's sediment all over the place.
Right.
Once we get into final cleanup of the projects, all that sediment's gonna be removed, put in stone. So the ability for the swale to capture the water better is definitely going to improve significantly just by removing that dirt. So it's still a work in progress, unfortunately, because of the nature of construction, but I think we're all in the same agreement. It's just that one clarification point I want to bring to your attention. It's not meant to be invasive.
So one thing I had in here, that I don't know everyone's thoughts, we spoke briefly about it, is for certificate of compliance, you would need to do an as-built.
Yep, and that's also a special condition as part of the standard.
Okay. So I don't know if the drainage system in general, at least in the driveway portion where a lot of the concern is centered around, is for all intents and purposes completed with the exception of final grading of the road and surface course. Is it something that should be considered to do kind of an interim as-built to confirm elevations of the swale, confirm that everything was built per plan, and kind of go back and recheck just to make sure that actual built conditions mimic what was designed and what the intent was, to confirm that the storage is actually there. Once we remove the sediment, obviously it'll be improved, but just to confirm that it's actually being provided. And then also we can, and maybe this is done, we just haven't seen it, but the downslope remediation of that plunge pool was sized based on discharge rates, not just, well, let's push some stone here and make this big area. I'm assuming it was sized, we just haven't seen it.
Yeah, so it wasn't truly sized. We designed the original riprap apron based on the Connecticut DOT's requirements. That was just again an internal sketch.
Yep.
Because it's single family, doesn't apply with stormwater management. So we did do some of that stuff. The plunge pool that was installed post fact, I can run the calculation and guarantee you it's significantly.
Oh, and it looked, it held up in that storm, so.
It held up, so we know it's working.
Bottom line here, I think we're making progress here, so if it was gonna blow out, it was gonna blow out with
Right.
10 and 11 inches of rain, so.
I think the as-built is more of that, kind of that final confirmatory check of
Agreed.
what is there works,
Mhm.
and we all agree that it works, and that's it, cause obviously adjustments were made, the channel, I agree, is a very big cause of that, to allow the water to get down and out of that slope versus blowing at someone's house.
Yeah.
So just kind of taking that into consideration and kind of updating the model and updating the contours and having an understanding of, okay, what remediation has already taken place is in fact enough and it works.
Okay. Josh, one other thing I mentioned before, in terms of the ground cover, I'm glad to hear that it's covered with vegetation and wildflowers, et cetera, et cetera. Because I recall from my wetland hydrology days, even if you have a fully forested cover, if the trees are simply over bare ground, the rate of the water falling out of trees 25, 30, 50 feet is the same as if there were no trees. So if you can get layers of vegetation to protect it, so if you, like, I'm not asking you to go plant 60-foot trees,
Sure.
but if you can plant some bushes in there, just to slow that rain down, so that when it falls, it's only falling a couple of feet out of the ground. Not right now, but just over the course of your ownership of the property.
Sure.
Continue to add layers of vegetation, I mean, the slope will be very happy for it. I get that right with my wetlands hydrology and the rate of.
I think in general, I think in general, just the 30 feet that are there are really, for all intents and purposes, it's insignificant based on the 28 acres of hill that is up above it. That's, I mean, that 25 feet, I could make it collect all the rain that falls on that space and redirect it somewhere else into oblivion, and it's still not gonna make a difference for the water that's coming down into that space. So it's more the 300 foot of elevation with, 30 plus acres of water that's up there that is creating.
Flowing over rock.
Yeah, it's flowing over, and there's literally ledge a foot down from.
Right.
So
You're fighting Mount Manustock.
I'm sorry?
You're fighting Mount Manustock.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I'm more than happy to try and like stabilize that a little bit.
Is that called Mount Manustock?
It's north of Manustock, yeah.
I learned that just now.
Sorry. Manustock Springs.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Pay for that someday.
Yeah.
So what now, Nick? I still need to get to the audience. I want to get some comments from the audience. Is there any?
Well, yeah, just to say, just on that last point, I think we all recognize like this problem isn't going to be solved by landscaping alone, but like that just as a light suggestion. I think we talked about that a little bit in the field too, just kind of allowing the bank to revegetate like with whatever kind of sprouts up there.
I'd like it to be attractive,
Sure,
but I mean,
sure.
I obviously understand that we want to stabilize it.
Yeah.
And I'm.
But shrubs and trees and the natural kind of stuff that's sprayed, it will be beneficial more than
For sure,
yeah.
And we need to move that up to the uphill side of the driveway, and I mean, we're already looking at like, what kind of ground covers can we put into that space to kind of stabilize that, because it is very steep, it's rocky, we wanna do it.
There's not many plantings you can do with exposed bedrock, and so.
Right, but I want something, some lower ground cover that at least gets some roots in there and, provides,
So just basically overview of this whole predicament here. So basically, there was a design that was presented to an iteration of this commission 2 years ago. I think, were you on the?
No.
Or
I don't recall it anyway.
I'll call you out.
I think you were.
You might have been. So that's why
I take it back, apparently I'm lying.
That's the only reason I say an iteration of this commission. But basically, this commission approved a design that came before us. So that it seemed to satisfy some design standards that we require, but in the words of one of our absent commission members here, there were design standards that were satisfactory that didn't match up with the performance standards. Apparently, we were seeing things like scouring and wetlands further down. We were seeing things like flooding, the driveway getting blown out, various things occurring that may or may not be attributed to the original design. What I'm hearing from Mr. Pyburn is that the site has changed a lot since the original design because of the failure and various things. But I'm basically hearing the suggestion that we get an as-built for now, just to make sure that some of those apparent mismatches are taken care of and addressed. So that's basically as I.
Can you clarify what do you mean by addressed? You mean just noted?
So pretty much do an as-built to confirm that the features that have been put into place at this point in time downstream are able to accommodate the anticipated flows. So I would say, just save my client money, I would say let's just do, if we were to go this route, just do a quick topo of the channel within the wetland to make sure that it's much more working, if you will, for a better term. And then also the riprap paths to make sure that they're designed appropriately. Obviously, the driveway area is still being built. I don't want to topo something and then have him rip it all up and for final construction and have to redo it all over again. So I think at this point, if we can confirm that the riprap and outlet paths are functioning as designed, as intended, I think that should be, I'm not ignoring the fact that, yes, this as-built does need to be done, but at least gives the commission the feeling that it is working as intended.
Yeah, I would agree with, right now, I think the downstream side would be sufficient. And then as the roadway gets completed and that swale really gets finalized and more defined on the upstream side, once that as-bilt's done, the same exercise is
Yeah, and
is taken to confirm that that in fact works, and if anything needs to be addressed at that time, it would be.
yeah, and I do, we work with the commission often, and I have
Clearly.
zero issues telling a contractor, you messed up, go fix it.
Right.
So,
That would be my concern, is
Yeah.
making sure, like, obviously your plan's one thing, but real,
No,
in the field's a
if
different
I-
animal.
if at the end of the day, the driveway is not built to spec, I have zero issue. Cause one, you need my stamp to close it out. I won't give that up easily. So if indeed that swale is not built to my satisfaction, I will call it out and will be addressed. But at this point, that's months down the road. But we can at least, evaluate the plunge areas and the swales and stuff like that to make sure that they're functioning at a higher performance standard than they were originally.
That sound good to you, Brendan?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
And
Chris, do you have any questions for Brendan while you're both here?
Not really.
Okay, alright.
No,
There we go.
Anybody other comments or questions?
Yeah, I just got one because I visited the site after and I said, oh, it held up pretty good. But I took a walk down the path that was cut open and seeing the direction, I go, oh, it followed it pretty good, it didn't scour the neighbor. However, I was just thinking to myself, I walked into the property for sale. Somebody's trying to sell for a house lot. I just want to bring it to our attention that there was a lot of scouring on that property. And not only from that channel, but also from the south side of your property, there was another stream going in there. So I don't want to get into any trouble in the future or, just to make you aware that the water is going somewhere, we all know that, and it's going on that property a lot. So there's a lot of sediment there, you could see there was a lot of good cuts, streams right through the middle of that property, so.
So I do have for when we get to the public portion of this, I do have a comment from the owners of that property.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, on that point, because I know we were kind of waiting until after this hearing to see what happened with this, how soon could you get people down there to clean out that lower portion with hand tools?
Well, I
and
mean,
things?
I guess the question to that point, Bob, is, for one, I can clean it, but it's not my right to be able to improve it, right?
Yep.
And so my concern is, it's still inadequate, right? We've already proven that it's inadequate. The scouring that's there is because the amount of water that came through for sure, right? But the water has to go somewhere. It's gonna go downhill, and it's always gone downhill, and it's gonna always go downhill, and if we don't make a place for it to go, it's gonna go where it wants to go. And so my concern is I can't go in and make that improvement to a channel to kind of focus it into a place that is desirable versus letting it find its own path, which is undesirable, and take with it whatever it wants to in between. Ideally, that would be nice. It would be nice to kind of simulate or mirror a channel there that is intended to handle the kind of water that we've been seeing, and do it in a way that is stable and that is performing as expected and that is manageable and sustainable. But I can't make those decisions there. All I can do is clean out sediment, but that's not really a fix. That's not really an improvement. That's just a restoration of what was already there, and we're gonna get it again. And so I'm concerned that we're only doing a partial. We're kind of doing a partial cleanup rather than a fix. And I'm just trying to get things fixed. I want to have things, but that's beyond where my purview is.
So I like to just point out that a lot of the diversions and the scouring and whatnot that has occurred more recently there, it's most likely a result of the sediment that was deposited there from the July event that has still not been cleaned up. So that's actively, every time it rains, it's still the original stream bank is still filled up with big piles of sediment, and that's causing more overflow and causing more scouring in new places. And at a previous meeting when Mr. Karen was here, is that it? Yeah. Well, yeah, when Bob was here, we had come up with a plan to clean out that top portion of the stream with machine work, and then when you got to a point where you couldn't do it, do hand tools and a bucket per grade, whatever you need to do to clean out the sediment that is there. So we've already agreed to do that much.
Agreed, yep.
And whether or not, like, I'm not saying that we're gonna be expanding the stream like we did in a similar situation up there. Like Bob had said, you know, clean it out to about where it was without disturbing any new stuff. And I agree with that too. I think that would still be worth our time to help avert some of those diversions that are still happening on that lot. Because as Bob said, you know, there's some terrible scouring going across there, but it's because there's a big piles of sediment in the original stream bank. So again,
I'm just looking at the fact of the channel that we made,
yeah,
the depth of the channel and the width of the channel. After we get to the channel that's been opened up, there's nothing else that's gonna accommodate that kind of water.
so, and in those big rain events, that amount of water is still gonna be coming down the hill, no one's arguing that,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying for, at least for these smaller events, it would be a big improvement.
Understood.
And then, yeah.
I echo Nick's statement. The initial surge and the sedimentation that occurred during the July event definitely altered that area significantly, and now water's kind of going.
Doing a new thing.
It's doing whatever it wants to do.
Yeah,
We
it's
can't-
like fanning out across that.
I've been, same with this project, or this property, I've been involved with the other property as well. Water's always been kind of contained in that area. In some large events, sometimes it did go over. So I think, like Nick said, us cleaning out those little pockets are going to improve the quote unquote spread of the water back into its natural channel from that's been there since the dawn of time, or since the glacier came through. So it's gonna reestablish itself, but these recent events that we've been having, nothing that we can design will ever stop that.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be more of them too, so.
So I think, like Nick said, let's get the sediment out of there, reestablish it based on our enforcement hearing that we had weeks ago.
And the reason I say it is only because what I wouldn't wanna do is go in and clean out sediment and then have the property owner come in and say, well, we're gonna make it a foot deeper. Well, then why do we just clean out sediment by hand,
Well,
right?
well, if
And
they're
then-
gonna do that, they would need to come through with an.
Understood, but I'm just saying that's why it's been kind of like a, let's see how we wanna handle this amount of water, you know, from like a long-term piece. Because it makes sense to do it efficiently, right?
So, no.
I'm okay with cleaning up the sediment.
Just cleaning up, we reestablished the channel that was already there previously on our property. Our responsibility is to try to reestablish the existing channel as it was by removing the sediment that was deposited on the abutting property. We're not advocating for going in there with a mini and start creating a new river.
Yeah,
So, I want that
Understood.
clear.
And that's
I'm
not,
not
He also knows.
and that's not what's being asked, we're just asking you to, and I understand, you're very practical, you know, you don't wanna just do things just as a gesture. But, you know, the state that the stream is in now is because of failures from your property from previously. So we're just asking you to just restore it as it was before that, and then we're all good,
Yep, that's fine.
so that's it.
So if we're all set up here, and you folks are all set, before we get to that one, let me open up to the audience here. Is there anybody here in the audience that has any comments, questions, statements that they'd like to? Sir,
I have a question.
state your name and address, please.
Nick Venti, 838 Washington Street, Mr. Manis. I got a question actually for you, Brendan. The previous design of the pipe under the driveway that failed in July. You said it accumulated some sediment and effectively the clogging with the sediment was effectively what caused the whole structure to be overtopped and washed out effectively. For culverts, like, you know, their culverts are designed to flow under pressure and pass sediment effectively. This is a pipe under a driveway to pass an ephemeral trickle of water. Hopefully, it should. Sometimes you get a little more than that, but I guess my question is, Are there hard standards for the design of a pipe under a drive to pass? Or is it sort of like, well, you can build what you like and maybe it needs to be cleaned out occasionally? Are there the same sort of design standards as you would find for a culvert as you would for a pipeline?
Yeah, so I think it essentially would follow the same guidelines, that it needs to be sized appropriately to effectively convey that stormwater runoff. In this case, I believe that pipe itself is sized adequately. There was, I think, numerous effects on the upstream side of that, not allowing the water to get into that pipe. The channel not being fully defined yet for that upstream swale. There's just numerous factors that I think went into that failure during that storm event. But yes, that pipe in theory is sized appropriately to convey the water and discharge it appropriately. And that's why one of my comments is to look at the downstream to make sure that that plunge pool is also sized to handle that water.
It's not just the size, but also the slope of the pipe as well, because
Oh yes, there's
Yeah, so
there's
the size
definitely
of
no
that
issue
pipe,
with the slope on
okay,
it. On the other side.
That pipe has been designed to accommodate in excess of the 100-year storm event. What caused the issue was the ability for the water not to get into the pipe, because we're in a state of construction right now.
Okay.
Once everything is said and done, the water will pour into this pipe and go underneath it,
and will flow
and
appropriately,
it'll flow appropriately.
discharge sediment and water.
Construction is the worst time of a project's entire life.
Sure, yeah, it's very vulnerable, it's a sensitive, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was, as just for myself too, like as I understand it was just the question of water getting into that pipe. Like there was a lot of air in that pipe
It's-
when the failure.
It's our stamps that we have to supply or stand behind, so
Um,
I'm not gonna throw an 8-inch pipe under that driveway and say, you're good to go.
enough.
Yeah, because that opens me up for
right.
unknown litigation from my clients. So it's my professional responsibility as a licensed engineer to design features to accommodate what I expect to be reasonable events.
Within reasonable parameters,
Correct.
yeah.
So a 100-year storm event, and based on the old models that the city still institutes, the TB40s, it's a 6.5-inch rain event. What hit the July failure was a 7-inch. So it was well beyond the
Yeah.
threshold of our typical designs. And obviously, 2 weeks ago, that was an unmeasurable event.
It wasn't under construction in July, was it? Or-
It was.
Okay, so it was previously, and that's what, the increased availability of sediment is what disturbed the system. Okay.
Do you have anything, you all set?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Anybody else? No? Okay. Alright, so, yeah, you wanna read that into the record?
Yeah, so on the public matter here, so this is a statement from Raymond Hoy and Diane Peralta, who own lot 7A on Hillary Road, which is the lot that the stream eventually enters into before getting into the catch basin.
The lot that Bob was talking about.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Alright, so the statement from Raymond and Diane reads, first, we would like to send our apologies for not attending the meeting. We are owners of lot 7A Hillary Road. We would like our comments to be on record in this meeting and ask that your comments be made part of the meeting, or part of the minutes for the record. Our land is not selling because the plan that the commissioners have approved for the lot above our lot on Harwood Terrace that has literally destroyed our land as a buildable lot. We have had several buyers now, of which 2 builders have had serious interest but have reneged on deciding against, have reneged or decided against the purchase due to the water runoff from that Harwood Terrace property above ours. We had an initial offer that was backed out of due to the extremity of the water issue. Our land has been seriously altered due to the allowed plan of the lot above ours that this commission approved. There are multiple water trenches developed on our land as a result of the drainage systems on the Harwood Terrace lot. The water rushing down to our land was ongoing before the driveway above our lot collapsed, but the driveway collapsed because of the allowed plan. This beautiful lot that is an approved building lot in a lovely neighborhood has been listed for sale for almost 7 months now. It is due to the approved site plan on Harwood Terrace and actions of this committee that it is not sold. Each day that this is not rectified is costing us time and money. We would like the drainage pipe situation be rectified as soon as possible to prevent water running down to our lot. We believe someone has to take responsibility and some action immediately. Thank you for your time, Ray Hoy and Diane Peralta. So I don't know if the commission or anyone wants to comment on that. I think we kind of addressed some of the points here throughout the discussion.
One thing I do recall, as I said, I don't recall this coming before me a couple years ago, but I do recall, I think it was my first, because it was the middle of COVID, it was my first site visit with the Concom, sometime in 2020, to that one on Hillary Road, and I remember, I think you were there, yeah, you were there, with Angela and Jeff Goins, one or two other people.
Yep.
The woman on the city council stopped by, and she lived right over there. I do recall us talking about that existing wetland channel coming down the side of that property. But 2020 was a fairly normal year, if not dry. In fact, it might have been one of the drought years, so it was hard to tell what was going on at that point.
I don't wanna say one way or the other, but I know this, I can speak on the record that those channels have been there.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why the site is designed as it's designed.
Yeah.
That's all I really wanna say about that.
Yeah.
So those channels have definitely been there since, for years at least, but there might be a misunderstanding maybe with what they're trying to say here. I know that they were a little surprised by the presence of the storm pipes when they visited the property recently in the last few weeks. But I think that I think they hadn't been to the site in some time and they were a little surprised by the extent of the stormwater infrastructure, but again, it's all pretty necessary from what we've discussed and the amount of water that can come off that hill in extreme events, so.
I think it would be safe to say that if the features that we installed that are not there right now, we would have been in front of you guys months ago, as soon as we opened up that site. That this would have been an ongoing issue.
Yeah.
I
I would agree.
Yeah.
So yeah, with that, I think we are addressing it. We've addressed it, pretty astoundingly this meeting. I would say, I think after the months of kind of dragging on, I feel like we're finally getting somewhere with this, and hopefully, and I will be getting permission from them before any kind of work occurs on their property, just to make sure that that's the cleanup from the sediment.
Sure.
But I don't anticipate any problems on their part, with that. They just want this to be addressed. So.
Alright, so at this point, we've heard from Mr. Pyburn, Mr. Pyman. Mr. Pyburn, we've heard from Chris, we've heard from the homeowner, we've heard from the audience, and we've heard from that statement. So at this point, it sounds like the best, probably maybe the only course of action, or correct course of action, is to obviously continue with the development of the site, the stabilization of the site, let that progress. Other than that, I don't think there's nothing here for us to do aside from that, is there? Am I missing something?
I think pretty much everything's been addressed at this point, based on Brendan's recommendation. We would request that that as-built plan.
For the outlets and stuff like that, to make sure they're functioning as intended.
On this schedule, kind of based on your rate of work here, when do you anticipate finishing that particular structure around the driveway? I'm guessing it's gonna be later on, because you're kind of working from the house back.
Yeah, are you talking about the driveway itself?
Yeah, that structure that Brendan had referenced to, make sure that swale upstream is retaining water adequately.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that's been changed there, it's gonna be cleaned up, as far as the sediment that's in it.
So, you're going pretty quick on the framing, you should probably be wrapping up the project by late next spring.
Yeah, it'll be spring.
Okay. And I think we had the July event, we had the September event. There were two pretty good tests of the system, I would say. So absent an 11-ish event, between now and May, I think we're okay. Yeah. So I would recommend that we follow Brendan's recommendation, just have that as-built plan presented to us, make sure everything agrees, and that's how I would proceed here. In absence of any other violations or failures or anything in the meantime.
There was a, was there a cease and desist on this?
No.
There wasn't, what
No.
what was the,
So the violation notice, that was for the
Violation notice.
scouring
okay.
in the wetland
And that-
above
okay.
50.
So that's no longer an issue, we're all set with that?
That's been addressed,
Been
yeah,
addressed,
and then,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, just wanna make sure we weren't leaving anything hanging.
And then the enforcement order came from the July failure, and that has since been addressed.
That's what I was thinking of the enforcement order.
Mhm.
Alright, so I think with that, this isn't a hearing we can close, it's just,
No, it's
Yeah,
just kind of an ongoing
Yeah,
discussion,
okay.
so I would
Alright.
just say that we've all been here, we know what's expected of you, we're gonna get that as-built plan sometime in the next year as this kind of wraps up and the project closes out. I'll be keeping an eye on the project and
sediment.
And sediment.
sediment will be removed
Sediment
this
cleanup would be
Yeah.
done this fall,
fall.
this fall.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll be in touch with the property owners of lot 7A this week, just to clarify that they're good with you coming on the property to do that, and to just discuss what we talked about here. But I think that
Alright.
wrap it up.
There was, just for clarification, there was one thing that we talked about with the bucket cleanup crew, which was doing some of that reinforcement. Are we, rather than trekking that sediment out, do we wanna clarify one, go one way or the other?
All sediment on the abutting property is taken off.
I think that was the agreement.
And is your question, and put where, is that your question?
Well, there was a question of whether or not it would be advantageous to use that to reinforce, to create some
To
reinforcement.
kind of shore up the bank, like you
Exactly.
did on the other,
Like we did
on the higher
up,
ups.
up higher, so if we don't wanna do that, that's fine, but that was brought up before.
Yeah,
No, but
yeah.
we talked about that for the on locus system. Offsite is purely just getting it back to what it was.
Yeah, and the shoring up was especially because
There was some
Ian had been
low points,
having
yeah.
problems, with water entering and
Yep.
overtopping the stream.
Well, my point with those, that was never a thing of bucket cleanup, that was always gonna be mechanical, so we weren't talking about doing it for that, it was,
Right.
are we gonna haul everything out by hand
Mhm.
if we're doing bucket cleanup, or should we use some of that on site? I think it was an open question, but now
Yeah.
it sounds to me like we're clarifying, just clean up
We'll
and
just
haul
take
out.
it off-site.
That's fine. Yep,
And you can dispose of that
however.
on your property, and we're,
Yeah.
whatever. Wherever in an
I
area
wanna-
that might
I
need
wanna-
some fill
I
or
wanna
whatever.
recycle that,
Yeah.
that silt.
You do whatever, do something responsible with
It'll
it.
just get back there somehow, water
Constant
will,
doodle.
Yeah.
water will bring it back down, so.
It's all quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Alright,
Yeah, so we can,
well, thanks everybody,
thanks for
appreciate
coming
your
in.
time, that was actually quite interesting, I appreciate your time and your input.
Yeah.
And your thoughts,
It's been a saga.
it is.
Yeah.
And good luck with your property, Josh, and
Thanks,
everything.
So I'll follow up with you, I'll let you know about Ray and Diane. And
Sounds good.
I'll be in touch.
Thanks, Zachary. Thanks.
Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you, Mr. Bo, thanks to Mr. Bobright too. Tell him.
Yeah, pass.
I'll let them know.
I'll thank him myself.
Alright, you might need to take a look, anybody need to take a little break for a couple minutes? No, everybody all set? Okay. Alright, moving on then, number two, the September 11th, 2023 flood overview, that's you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, is definitely an unprecedented event, as we're all kind of aware, so I just wanted to do a quick little debriefing of that, and explain some of the situations, in the state and with the federal government that are ongoing and how we're dealing with the situation. So, on 9/11, on the night of 9/11, there was a,
Please don't call it 9/11.
the 11th of September.
That's different.
There was a 10-inch rain event that caused a lot of damage all across the city. That led to Mass DEP issuing an emergency declaration that allows for certain work that would normally need to be permitted to go on with just a brief description or a thorough enough description of the work to the Conservation Commission and the and Mass DEP. Just to restore things as they were. So if anyone watching or anyone hearing this has, a project that fits that description where they need to restore what was previously there because of events of the storm on the 11th, that's what is covered under the emergency declaration. There's an ongoing assessment across the city for storm damage. So we've been in touch with the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, MEMA. And we've been working with them on our response and getting these assessments together. Basically, the city got together a mass package of all these assessments and handed it off to MEMA yesterday. And that was our initial first package. I think there was something like $25 million of damage recorded in just that initial package. So based on that assessment that was done by the city, we hand it off to MEMA and they give it to FEMA, which is the Federal Emergency Management Agency. And then based on that assessment, FEMA will then decide whether it meets their threshold for them to come and do their own assessment. And then based off of FEMA's assessment, that is how they decide whether or not to declare a state of emergency. And then the state of emergency being declared is what would open up a lot more federal funds to the city, specifically for public infrastructure, public property that's been damaged because of the storm. I know the city's also asking private residences and private business owners to fill out a separate form, which can be found on the city website. And that's being compiled and tracked, and I'm not as familiar with that process just because it's the private homeowner process and I haven't really been involved with that. But I believe that's all being compiled for another possible route of getting federal money that's separate from the public assessment. So if you're a private citizen, a private business owner, and you're seeing this, definitely check out the city website and fill out those forms and track whatever data you have for what damage you've sustained here. So moving forward, we've had a couple of projects come through under the emergency declaration, which I've shared with Mass DEP. We have a couple more that could potentially fall under that, but I'm waiting for more information from the property owners or the contractors that might be doing that work. Additionally, we also have a number of emergency certifications that have come up, which are things that fall outside of the scope of that declaration. So the declaration allows only for work to go forward without a permit if there's a description of the work that's given to Mass DEP and the Conservation Commission, and it falls under the specific points that Mass DEP set out that it's gotta be just restoring it to its previous condition that it was on September 10th, basically. So that's what you have to do under the declaration. Any work that goes beyond that, we still have to get in under the regular process of getting an emergency certification. So like I said, I've shared some of our projects coming in under the declaration with Mass DEP, which we have Mia McDonald's in attendance from the central region with us. And she's here to answer any questions that people might have on the status of the state declaration anyway. And so if that's pretty good, if we don't have any other questions with that, the next thing on the agenda was covering some of those emergency certifications. So if no one has any questions, or if Mia would like to say something.
Can I add one thing to what you said? Is
Yes.
that if anyone is listening, that we wanna
I'm
make
sorry,
sure
if you
that.
just please introduce yourself.
So I'm Mia McDonald from Mass DEP Central Region Wetlands. I'm the certifier, I do outreach and education. Is that the emergency declaration provides for work to restore things that way it looked on September 10th, but it's just things to protect the public health and safety. So a road, utility line, access to your home, your foundation. It's not for your lawn, it's not for your above ground pool, it's not for your shed. There was one case where there was a shed that was being threatened, the shed was moved. We can't be throwing riprap and armoring banks to protect people's sheds and lawns, because the loss of a lawn is not a threat to public health and safety. But septic system, obviously we don't want those to be ruptured. I know a lot of the cities on wastewater, but any gas lines, utility lines. So anything to any restoration that's required to protect the health and safety.
So like for instance, just as an example of that, one of the projects that we have was for the repair of the Exchange Street Bridge, which kind of leads up to Distributing Reservoir and that whole neighborhood up there. So a lot of that bridge was undermined. Mass DOT has been working up there, and they're filling some grout bags underneath to kind of fill in that void that got washed out underneath the bridge. Put some riprap and some stone down the sides to, again, fill in that void that has been washed out. But they're just restoring the bridge to its previous state, or, you know, a state as close as they can get it to September 10th, right? So that's the type of work that fits under that declaration.
What if the condition of the pre-existing condition was of such a state that the flood just exacerbated it? It didn't, you know, restore it to what condition? I mean, or if it was a problem site, how do you restore that?
So there are some areas across the city that have seen more catastrophic washouts, especially like along like steep slopes and things like that. And that you can't really like restore to its previous condition. So like things like that would fall under anything that's not specifically falling under the declaration. If it's truly an emergency, can come in under an emergency certification.
How many dams failed?
No dams failed in the city. One?
Birch Pond. Right next to the lot.
Oh! I saw that myself. What am I doing? I think is that the only one?
I think that was the only one.
That's the only one I'm familiar with. I was thinking of Barrett and.
Is the Barrett Pond Dam still under investigation though? They're still evaluating?
No, it's stabilized.
Is it? Okay,
Right
okay.
now. They have money from a previous grant that was in the works for the last few years to upgrade and replace the dam. And then, you know, September happened and washed it all out. So they've repaired that, but separately they're also working on a major improvement.
Okay, so it's stable for now.
It's stable for now, but in the next like couple of years, it'll
Okay.
be
In the Bear Pond?
That's what I was just asking.
That's the same dam, yeah. And so I was thinking of Barrett and Distributing Reservoir because those two dams came dangerously close to failing, or I don't want to be hyperbolic here, but they were iffy for a little bit there, but they've both since been stabilized and have been declared like safe.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the emergency declaration. That's the process with FEMA. We handed that initial assessment off to MEMA yesterday, and I have heard that it's going to take at least several weeks to maybe like 1 or 2 months at least before we hear back from FEMA on their assessment and whether they're going to be coming in or not, which I can't promise anything, but based on what I've seen, I would expect more from them later on. So,
Right.
That is that.
Any
We can go on.
questions, comments?
Can I make one more comment?
Please.
Nick mentioned that you can, and Jim, you brought up, what if it was bad before, it would restore back to bad? That's where we go to maybe we don't wanna restore it back to bad. So if we can restore, and it's all about just enough work to abate the emergency. Nobody should be fully rebuilding, unless there's like a small, like these footings at this bridge. Maybe DOT is going to bring that Exchange Street Bridge and then the work will be complete, or maybe they have to do additional engineering evaluation, see if they have to come back with an NOI later for more work. If it doesn't fall under the emergency declaration, like the Pleasant Street site, there was a bad situation there, it's now the culvert's like in a different place, the water's flowing in a different place. We're not gonna restore back to bad, we're gonna do an emergency cert. The emergency cert brings you up to just abate the emergency, make the road passable again. And then there needs to be an NOI for any work beyond that.
To approve it beyond its.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
To make sure it's getting fully
Pleasant
evaluated.
Pond,
Yeah, that's what she's referring
Pleasant
to, yeah.
Pond.
Which is one that we will be covering.
Alright,
Alright. No more questions, then we can move on to.
on we go.
Emergency certifications, so.
How many do we have?
We've got not too many today, because there are a number of situations where, it's either not an emergency, but work still needs to be done, so then that's gonna be coming later, or it's an emergency that still needs to be evaluated, and they still need to tell me what
Okay.
kind of work exactly they're gonna work on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's take a few minute break.
Meet back here at 5.
Reminder that the camera is still on. You want to recycle that?
Yes. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4,
That's right,
5
just to abate the
emergencies.
So whether it's allowable work under the emergency declaration to abate the emergency. And then if it's not work that's allowed, there's a very specific list in this declaration of what can be done. But then there's things that need to be done that aren't in this list, and that has to be done for emergency cert. But in both cases, under the declaration of emergency cert, it's just enough to abate the emergency. And then there needs to be
Doyle
additional
Fields?
evaluation to see.
Doyle Field, yes.
Yeah, they have tennis courts over there.
Yep.
That's fine, the tennis courts.
Ooh.
Got a nice washout there.
Yeah, huh?
I know.
Coming close.
Like following.
Is there a stream in there?
No, it's just a really steep hill.
Oh,
It just got saturated.
wow.
Start giving away.
Whoopsie.
Yeah. So we got that. So that's like one of those situations. It's like they're gonna do something there, but they just don't know what. And then another one that I just visited today.
The two engineers are talking about, they have to design for the water that's out.
There's
So, someone should be performing
on
evaluation,
Nashua
not just
Street.
replacing
Yeah.
the pipe.
So it's across the river from the Duran dealership.
Yep.
That's kind of, so across the river, there's another big washout that's leading down to the river.
Wow.
I
Did
saw
that
that
all go into
yesterday.
the river?
Yeah.
I was going to
Wow.
Phillipston, it's like the whole parking lot is gone.
Oh, no, wait.
No, that's actually in,
That's
this
in
is across the river.
Across.
Same.
Oh, in the, the dealership, the
Yeah,
parking
the
lot.
3 or 4 cars went in,
Yeah.
not to the river, but into the hole.
Mhm.
That's coming soon. I'm taking care of that.
Yeah, I was out there yesterday talking to him.
I
can see
You see this?
That same washout. You can see how close the cars are.
We're never gonna see this again, probably.
What's up here?
It's like a warehouse. There's like a couple big kind of industrial
Yeah.
buildings up there.
This is out behind the pizza place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Up
Wow.
the street there,
Yeah.
across the street from the train
Train
station.
station. Yeah.
And then I'll show you the other side too.
At the river down there.
Yeah, and then if you scroll one,
Wow. Huh.
and then again, you can see how close the building is there.
Ooh.
So that's gonna be probably an emergency.
Wow. Yeah.
Want picture time?
Sure.
Yeah.
Show a picture of Brooks Pond.
Yeah.
Brooks River,
Let's see that one. This big washout,
Yeah.
like 100-foot drop down there, so. Something like that
That's an emergency.
is an emergency.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure. Okay.
Getting that
Just
customer
calibrating.
building.
So for an example, Brooks Pond, it's a bridge, the dam broke, circumvented the spillway. So we're about to rebuild part of the
Holy
harbor.
crap.
I think there's something in here about.
I know there's a thing about dams and
Yeah.
building, and we're kind of,
That's crazy.
trying to wrap our heads around.
What's that? That thing?
It's part of the bridge.
Oh,
Are you asking under the declaration?
emergency repair but not expansion to dams.
Yeah, so we were thinking maybe, before we saw that document, try to talk to everybody and say, can we fix the spillway, get the spillway
How'd you
kind
make out?
of circumvented, you know?
Yeah.
So that work, if we were to improve the spillway, we would have to go through the
I
whole
named the
that
process.
process.
I think this, I mean, the spillway is
But-
part of the dam.
Can we, folks, can we get going so we can,
In the next
go back to our loved ones if we have any?
That would be in touch.
Michael?
Yeah.
All good. We're getting back a little earlier.
Alright.
Alright.
Okay, go.
Okay. So we've got, did I say 5?
5, yeah.
5 emergency certificates to go over. So the first one is for the distributing reservoir dam, which is at 300 Exchange Street. So flooding from the extreme rain caused erosion on the downslope face of that dam and eroded a lot of that away, and created an emergency situation. that Leominster DPW had responded to, and also Blue Diamond, which is one of the contractors that does a lot of work around town. And they have since poured some riprap and some large boulders down into those voids that have eroded away and stabilized it for the time being. It's been deemed stable for now and safe. That work has already been done, but I had authorized that work to be done like I think the day or two after the flood event. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's done already, but we're ratifying these certificates because I've issued some of these.
Okay.
Just with my own signature.
Yeah.
But it'll just back up
Okay.
that if the commission passes it.
So it's been a while since I've done one of these, so would you just need me to ask for a motion to approve each one of these?
Yes.
Okay, alright,
Some of them need to just be ratified, so I've issued them already, and then some of them still need to be voted on and
Okay.
given to the people.
okay,
So,
so that one needs to be voted on?
Mhm.
I just wanna see it, okay. Okay, so let me make sure I word this correctly, so I'll entertain a motion for an emergency certification for the work done at just 300 Exchange Street
at the distributing reservoir.
at the distributing reservoir.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Michael, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Bob. You want us to sign these while we're here?
That's the word.
I have some stuff that, yeah, we can sign everything at the very end,
Okay,
so.
okay.
It's already done.
Alright,
Okay. I got Jim. Thanks.
And aye.
Wait, who, oh, I'm sorry, it was Bob,
I was second.
Mike, and then
Mike made
Bob,
the
sorry.
motion, Bob second.
Alright. Bob. And Jim and Chuck, and
Yeah,
I
aye.
heard 2 yeses. So
Yep.
4-0. Certificate is passed, so we will get that at the end. Alright, next, we have the Bear Park Dam. So a very similar situation, major erosion along the front face of that dam because of overtopping and scouring down the side. So DPW has since been down there. They poured riprap, large stone. They've had, I know specifically, actually it's for both, so I should have mentioned this to the other, but they've had GZA come in, which is the company that does a lot of our dam work around the city. And they've given it their stamp of approval. It is safe and stabilized for now, so.
Okay.
But that was the work that had to be done.
Yeah, usually they do a lot of dam work.
Yep.
And there's all kinds of jokes in there, but I'm not gonna get to that.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll entertain a motion then to approve the emergency certification for the dam at Barrett Park at 40 Barrett Parkway.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Bob. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll take the rest of the commission's vote by roll call. Mike Seepy.
Aye.
And Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
Okay. Next, we have the culvert in front of and passing under 208 Pleasant Street. So this was probably one of the more flashy disasters that had happened across the city.
There's one where the road is literally going over an empty spot now, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
not
was.
anymore.
No, it was, sorry.
So they're leading immediately down from the Barrett Park Dam. That stream then flowed through a wooded area before it flowed perpendicularly into underneath Pleasant Street. It then entered a box culvert underneath there and tied it into a foundation for the house at 208 Pleasant Street. I've included some pictures on the drive for the commission, just to see that. It's really weird engineering, from when the house was built back in the 40s. Just stuff that would never happen today. But that culvert went under Pleasant Street, went directly underneath the house, and then daylighted through the backyard, and then flowed through to another wetland area down throughout town. So from the extreme amount of rain and water we had coming through that site, it completely blew out that culvert, eroded away everything underneath the road collapsed, there's a big sinkhole there. did the same thing to the entire yard and foundation of 208 Pleasant Street.
Is that where I saw the picture of the house was just standing on its foundation with nothing around it? Yeah. Okay.
It completely washed away their yard, their yard and everything underneath it.
Yeah.
It's completely gone. So
And down about 12 feet too.
yeah, down to what I imagine was probably the original,
Footings.
the original level of that area. I imagine it's probably where the stream flowed through there. You can see an old retaining wall
Really?
up there
I
too.
didn't get
Yeah.
that close.
So basically, yeah. So it flushed out the road, completely cut off both ends of the road, flushed out the yard, created an emergency situation at the house where the homeowners needed to be rescued, I believe, that night. The house has since been condemned, and I'm not too sure what the plans are for that house going forward, but that will be addressed in a later notice of intent.
Right.
For now, just to address the emergency situation and gain access to that road again, DPW and Blue Diamond worked in conjunction to clear out that sinkhole, shut off the necessary utilities that were also flowing through there. They since put in a temporary 36-inch circular culvert and blocked the initial entryway to the culvert so water doesn't continue flowing through there, because the situation was flowing through that culvert, continuing to flow through that culvert after the washout and flowing through and around the foundation of the house. So that's been improved a little bit. They're diverting it through this temporary culvert, and it's still coming through that property before getting into the stream. But the culvert's been placed. They put compacted stone and gravel over top of that to the level of the road, and they've since repaved the road. And I believe, I was there Friday, they were about to reopen it. I think it's open
Yeah, it's
now.
open.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's the work, and they're gonna be coming, DPW will be coming before us later on for a notice of intent filing. Cause they probably need to do something more like a stream crossing there rather than just some kind of culvert. You know, it's just too much water coming through there.
Right.
So.
Okay.
But that'll be addressed though later on.
All right. Thank you, Nick. So then entertain a motion to approve the emergency certification for the work on the culvert and road, et cetera, at 208 Pleasant Street.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jim. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bob.
Motion to Bob. Rest of the commission's vote by roll call, Mike Siki
Aye.
and Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
Alright. The next one is for, I always forget, I believe it's Meadowbrook Acres, it's the trailer park on Central Street.
Mobile home park.
The mobile home park on Central Street, the address is 556 Central Street. But the emergency is that erosion from the September rain event washed out. It flooded the banks of Fall Brook, which flows through that mobile home park, shortly after crossing under Central Street. So near that Central Street crossing in front of the park, there was a tree on the bank of the stream that the bank has started to sag since the rain event, and you can see the cracks kind of forming along the bank as everything's kind of slowly shifting off. And there's a tree that's situated lower down on that bank that's getting pushed over by the earth moving. So it's leaning pretty heavily now, and it's facing the power lines that run down Central Street. And it's also facing the bridge that crosses Central Street. So if nothing's done, then it'll definitely affect the utilities and could potentially affect the bridge there, and could potentially dam up Fall Brook, causing more flooding issues and things down in that area. So the maintenance for the Meadowbrook Acres is proposing to have the tree cut down. They're gonna hire a contractor, which is Elite Tree Service, to come in and with machinery from the gravel driveway up on top of the bank, they'll reach down with the crane and remove the tree and cut it at the stump and just leave the stump and the roots. And then that's basically it. So.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Nick. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the emergency certification for the tree work at 556 Central Street near the mobile home park office.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Michael, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Bob?
I'll take the rest of the commission's vote by roll call. Jim Chambers
Aye.
and Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
Okay. And lastly, for tonight, we have at 245 Exchange Street is a private residence that is next door neighbors to the Exchange Street Bridge that I had mentioned earlier that's getting the work done under the emergency declaration. So the house that's just downstream from that bridge, the bank, the stream flows around their property, around the back of their house, and all along the stream bank has eroded considerably from, maybe a couple inches to like 10 feet of the yard has been lost to the river now. But as Mia had mentioned, that itself doesn't fall under an emergency certification, but there's one portion of the yard that is eroding away and threatening their driveway. So it started to undermine there. The contractor that is proposing to do the work is AP Services, and they are proposing to remove a portion of the top of that bank that's being overhung over the river to allow like a 2-to-1 slope once they're finished with the work there. So they're gonna pull back some of that bank that's overtopping the stream right now and fill in the rest of that bank with 24-inch stone to just shore up and stabilize that portion immediately around the driveway. And then they're gonna be referring, or they're gonna be coming back to us at a later date with a more flushed out NOI to like fully restore that bank and maybe allow for some like plantings and vegetation just beyond like the regular riprap and things there, so.
So I have a question for Mia. So this sounds like just like a personal property issue. How is this covered under emergency certification?
It's threatening their driveway, so they do need access to
Driveway.
their house.
Yeah.
There we go,
Yeah,
okay,
their
alright,
driveways, it's not as bad as the septic system, but we do have to let people in and out,
Fair
especially
enough.
ambulance.
fair enough,
Sure,
okay,
not
thank you.
enough.
So this is the same that she had mentioned earlier with the shed. The shed had been pulled back and that itself isn't an emergency, but the shed was located at the end of their driveway. So it's close enough that they had to move the shed and now it's continuing to get further and further up to the driveway. And with
Okay.
that overtopping, it's not getting any better, so.
Alright.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Alright, then I'll entertain a motion to approve an emergency certification for the work at 245 Exchange Street to shore up their driveway.
I'd like to make that motion, Chuck.
Thank you, Bob. Is there a second? Thank you, Jim.
Alright, take the rest of the commission's vote by roll call. Mike Seeking
Aye.
and Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
Alright.
Cool. So we'll probably be seeing more of those then, right?
Yeah, so there's a number of other situations across the city that are either definitely emergencies and just haven't been, they don't have a plan of action yet, so I can't describe what they're doing. Or they're, resulting from the flood, but they're not emergencies per se, but they are kind of necessitating some sort of work per the property owner.
Okay.
So there's gonna be NOIs and certifications coming up in the next, probably over the next few months,
Yeah.
probably stemming from this.
Okay.
But I'll keep you updated.
Sounds good.
Is there a need to convene any additional meetings while this stuff happens to get these things?
At this time, I don't see the need
Yeah,
for that.
I would think we can handle it on a case by case basis. If we need to, we will. I don't think we need to come to that
No,
decision
I
tonight.
was just
Yeah.
asking if that's a.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that, and I would like to just say that Mass DEP, like Mia and everyone, has been super supportive of me and have offered their help in me getting emergency certs ready or different paperwork things if I'm feeling overwhelmed. So if I do feel the need for additional meetings, I won't be afraid to bring that up. But thank you for mentioning that.
All right, good. Let me get that out of the way. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate all your hard work on that one.
No problem.
On all of those, I should say. All right, moving on to certificates of compliance. First one we have is Whitney Carriage Apartments, DP file number 199-1105. Chris, I assume you're here. Are you here for this?
I'm here for there is a cert of compliance request.
Oh, yes. So, Nina, if I might consult you in the middle of this meeting. So there was a certificate of compliance that I had put on the previous agenda that got canceled because of the flood, and I just forgot to put it on this agenda. Would it be proper to,
I think the
Bring it up.
procedures say, to get it, it has to be, applied within, and then site inspection, and then it has to be posted on the agenda.
Oh.
So,
So we've done everything besides posting it on this agenda.
so,
I'd be wary of it. Because
okay,
sometimes people will call like the day of, and they'll be like, hey, can I get on tonight's meeting? And it's like, I know your site's stable, I know you've done everything, but I can't get it on the agenda because the agenda's
Right.
tonight.
okay, so just,
The
yeah,
procedures are clear, that has to be on the agenda.
Okay,
so just for consistency's sake,
Just because this commission wasn't around when it was first permitted, can I speak to it? Just so that when, I don't have to come back before them if they have any questions.
It's up to the chairman if he wants to, those discussion items that come up at the last minute, whether he wants to.
is it reasonably quick?
Yeah, the guy permitted back in 2020, started, it was a part of the research drive and development. So everything was pretty much graded and stubbed out and everything like that. The lot kind of grew up with tall grass. We permitted with the commission at the time. He was started construction, fast forward, the crazy price spikes of 2020 and 2021, the COVID boom. Couldn't afford the building anymore, so he did some rough grading. He called me, wanted to close out the permit. I told him the site needs to be loam and seeded. He did that. It's currently right now a nice lush green meadow again.
Okay,
He did some filling of the land, but nothing close to the buffer zone or anything like that.
Okay.
So he's looking to close out the permit so he can sell the property.
okay. And you've seen this and?
I've been there
Okay,
before the previous meeting when we
Okay.
were supposed to.
and your thoughts, does that sound accurate?
Exactly that, it's just basically a graded, flat, square section of grass.
Okay.
right now.
Alright, so, alright, so,
So we'll vote on
Yeah.
it, we can vote on it at the next one.
okay, so you're done presenting on it then, we can just vote on it next, okay, let's do that then, perfect, okay. And you've got the address, and everything for the file number, okay, perfect, yep, okay,
And I'm only here for the extension for Willard Street,
alright,
which is
Wait on
number 4.
Hmm.
I think we skipped over it.
Did I miss something?
I
don't see an extension for
Number 4 on the item.
Number five, I've got two Whitney carriage apartments on the number 4.
Yeah.
Oh.
The extension for,
The Meadowlands at Willard.
yeah,
Uh-oh,
I'm sorry, but that was another one, that was on the previous agenda.
It's on this agenda.
Was that posted?
Yeah.
I must have printed off the previous, I'm sorry, people.
You had a
couple of agendas
Oh,
You've been on busy.
Yes, it has the
As
extension.
the extension.
Okay. So this, I must have printed this from a previous version of this agenda, so excuse me, but that is, I think that's the only difference. That's number 4 on yours,
Yes,
and then number 5 is,
certical classes.
and then nature walk, and then meeting minutes, and then commission
I want to
vacancy.
say that
Okay,
I
yeah.
can. So it's, I don't want to step out of line.
No, yeah. Okay, yeah. So it was on the posted agenda, so we can talk about it. So
Alright.
that it was,
Okay.
if you wanna read it, then it's number 4.
Alright, yeah, change of permits, for the Meadowlands on Willard Street, DEP file number 199-1087.
So there's a pretty sizable subdivision there, was permitted. I mean, you could tell, you know the history better than I do, so.
See, that was permitted back in 2019. When we came before the commission, which I don't think anybody on this commission was there.
No, I came on in 2020, and I'm,
Yeah, so Nick recommended I come and kind of give you guys the
Okay.
rundown of the project. Permitted in 2019 for a 26 lot subdivision off of Willard Street, just south of Lake Samuset. As part of that, we designed the entire roadway system and rough grade for the lots. The site's entirely sand, so it relies heavily on infiltration. The way we permitted with the commission at the time was we would, that order of conditions was for the construction of the roadway, general grading of the lots in order to build the roadway out. and installation of the appropriate stormwater structures. We didn't include the house lots for the individual lots, only because that would have required the order conditions to be extended for God knows how many years. So the original order was just for the roadway construction and prepping the lot for construction and drainage infrastructure. There's been delays on construction due to the state of construction over the last few years, so it's been taking a little bit longer to get going. But at this point in time, they've rough graded the entire roadway out. They're installing the last of the drainage infrastructure, and it should be paving ideally by winter time this year. So what we're requesting from the commission is an extension, a 2-year extension, so that they can complete the projects and get everything up to snuff so that they can start building lots.
Okay. So again, this is just for the roadway and the rough grading to the side and the stormwater infrastructure.
Correct, and there's one note that's unique to this project, if you will. There's several lots on the backside of the property, or the backside of the subdivision that abut the wetland. As part of the overall cumulative drainage design, what we did was we actually analyzed the individual house lots with the square footage of a standard sized colonial house you see all over this city, as well as driveways and other stuff.
Mhm.
So the drainage system is designed to accommodate all of those aspects. Specific to the lots on the backside of the subdivision, each one of those has a dry well system to capture the roof runoff, which was a condition of approval under the original decision. And I believe we also made that a continuing condition that all those houses be permitted with that dry well system on the backside of the house. So
And just describe very quickly the drywall system.
it's just a couple chambers in the ground that tie the roof drains into the ground.
And these chambers are just empty, or they filled with gravel, what are they?
There's concrete dry wells set in a bed of stone.
Okay.
So all they do is capture, infiltrate, it's all sand, and
Right.
it goes really quick.
Perfect, okay.
Are all those house lots gonna be private septic?
No, they all feed into a common E1 low pressure pump system.
Okay.
So no septic,
So
no
there's-
wells,
So so again, the extension again is still just for the roadway and,
just to build the roadway and the appropriate infrastructure. When we do get to building houses,
okay.
each individual lot will have its own order conditions.
Alright, got it, no, why, okay, alrighty. So,
Is this power lines and all the sand pits?
Once upon a time, it was a sand pit, and there's a power line that does go through it.
And they started trying to develop that about 25 years ago.
I believe back then there was a 40B proposal, but that fell apart very
I
quickly.
think we're getting beyond the scope of the extension permit here.
No, we're not, because I live off of Willard Street, and I wanna know what's going on there, so.
But right now, it's just the roadway.
Right, with the roadway, depends on how it goes through there, so I have a valid reason for asking that
Okay.
question, thank you.
Okay. Alright, so are you all set then?
Yeah.
Okay. So do we vote on this tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
So we've been voting on the extension. So it was passed in 2019 originally, and it got the COVID extension, that 462 days.
Right, that's right, yep.
For everything that was passed before March of 2020. So that brought it up to September 17th of this year,
Okay.
and they got the extension request in before that, so it's
Okay.
just.
Okay. Yes, right, okay.
Yeah.
And how should I refer to the site?
The Meadowlands at Willard.
Meadowlands at Willard? Okay. And 2-year?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then, entertain a motion then to grant the 2-year extension to the order condition for, Meadowlands at Willard.
We'll make that motion.
Thank you, Michael, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. We got Mike. I got Bob. I'll take the rest of the commission's vote by roll call. Jim Chambers.
Aye.
And Chuck Random.
Aye.
Alright, so the order of conditions is extended to September 17th of 2025.
Alright,
Great, thank
Thanks,
you very
Chris.
much.
I'm done with it.
have a good rest of your evening. Thanks for hanging with us.
Credits.
Alright. Alright, moving on then, certificates of compliance, Whitney Carriage Apartments, DEP file number 199-1105.
So that is, these are just old, there's, as you, most of you probably all know, Whitney Cares, they have a million open orders right now, there's a lot of work going on down there, so these are two older ones that they finished up, some time ago, but just have not been addressed, so. 1105 was for the restriping and, regrading of the south parking lot, and just some additional work that they had to do out there, but that is all since been done.
That's between the buildings?
The south lot is across the street.
Okay.
That's
So-
where I do my menistic sampling.
Yes.
Okay.
So they've since finished the work that over there that was under this order anyhow, so that has been
Okay,
done.
alright,
So I would recommend that we approve the complete certificate of compliance
Alright.
for 1105.
alright, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the certificate of compliance for Whitney Carriage Apartments, DEP file number 199-1105.
I'll make that motion, Chuck.
Thank you, Jim, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Michael.
I'll take the rest of the commission's vote by roll call. Jim Chambers.
Aye.
And Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
Okay. And
And, I'm sorry, moving on, another one for Whitney Carriage Apartments, DEP file number 199-1106.
so similarly, just an old project that has since, it's been done for a while and they closed it out. This was for the window replacements. I know very recently they replaced all the windows on the property. And I was a little confused as to why this was permitted by us, but I saw somewhere that it was like window replacements along the river. So I'm guessing they had to like have
Get
some sort of
equipment in there and
machinery or
stuff,
something, but that's all the windows are in over the entire property, so that's done.
Yeah, I probably would have had to have lifts to get up that high.
Yeah, so
Alright, entertain then a motion to approve the certificate of compliance for the Whitney Carriage Apartments work, DEP file number 199-1106.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mike, is there a second?
How about a second that?
Thank you,
okay,
Jim.
I'll take the
Bob,
rest.
You're Jim.
Yeah, I'll take the rest of the commission's vote
had it.
by roll call. The real Jim Chambers.
Right.
Alright, and Chuck Raymond.
Aye, I'll do better.
Hey Nick, how did their dam make out? We know?
It's doing okay.
Yeah, I was down
It was
there last
flowing.
week. Yeah.
It was, the water was so high, it was flowing over the top of the dam. So it normally all goes through the spillway and it's like 10 feet below the top of the
You should
dam.
see the trash piled up against the spillway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've got some pictures, I got some actually video on my phone.
The bridge that's
Crazy.
that's just upstream of there, the water was like a foot away from kissing the bottom of the bridge.
Okay, alright, moving on then. Conservation nature walks. Just doing a full foliage walk on October 19th at Barrett Park at 4 p.m.
So I'll just say quickly, the last one we had was at the Botel Conservation Area on Hill Street. And that has sustained a lot of damage from the storm, but despite that, we had 3 people come out and it was all 3 new people to that area. None of them had ever been there before, so doing good stuff with these walks,
Absolutely.
getting that exposure
Absolutely.
out there.
Love it.
Let people know, and even got another interested candidate, possibly. So stick him in my back pocket for later on. So yeah, and then the next one that we're having, like Chuck said, is on October 19th at Barrett Park. That's gonna be fall foliage, so we'll be talking all about fall colors and tree ID and some of the science behind that, and just enjoying nature and having a good time, seeing what we see out there, so.
You were late at at the one up on Hill Street. I saw your car still there. I came out of the house, tried to find it.
Yeah,
So
it went longer than I thought it would, yeah.
Cool.
And especially with only 3 people too, yeah. It was a good one. So yeah, that'll be coming up on October 19th. Check out the city website and the Facebook page for registration if you're interested. It should be a good time.
Put them on Facebook.
Go on to the website.
I'll do what I can.
I might start an Instagram.
I know people.
Oh.
Anyway, I'm sorry, moving on. Meeting minutes, August, we got 3 of them. First one from this past August 8th, 2023. I was not at that meeting, so I did not review.
Okay.
Those minutes?
Where's Rich when you need him?
I know, right? We might not approve any minutes until, has anyone reviewed any minutes?
I can't
Okay.
prove,
That's okay.
item 3 either.
Yeah. It's been
Yeah,
a while, so
yeah.
we can,
I read
we
that.
can hold off on this, it's fine.
Okay.
We're ready when you are.
Okay. No, I read 2 and 3, but obviously we need more people, so we'll hold off on those.
Yeah.
All right, commission vacancy, commission candidate.
Yeah, so we've had, one vacancies for the last couple of months since Ken left us. And we have Nick Venti, who had attended some previous meetings and.
Hey, you're familiar, yeah.
I was here, before your canceled meeting. So I was here a month ago.
Okay.
So,
No, was it the, wait, no.
and I'm sorry, did
No,
you say,
it was
did you
before
say,
that, it was before that.
you've been here for.
No, that's not true.
You've been here for
I think-
butters.
I think it was the previous, I think it was the last meeting you had. I was in attendance.
You might have been.
Yeah.
Did you just say that you came to
No, wait.
the last one? I
So our last meeting was canceled because it was the
This
day
one.
after the storm.
I actually did come to that, and no one was here except
Oh.
Robert.
I'm
Yeah.
so
Thank
sorry.
you, Ross.
No, maybe you're right. I was in Deerfield for a little bit, in August, so I probably would have missed that one.
My apologies, first of all, for not notifying you of the cancellation, that's.
You did.
Yeah.
You did. Actually, you left me a voicemail. It's alright.
And-
Sorry about
I
that.
got it later on.
I wish I got it to you sooner, I'm
What's your name
sorry.
again, I'm sorry?
Nicholas Venti.
Venti, okay.
So, yeah, he's been sitting in for the meeting, just like all of our other candidates, just
Yeah.
ask him to come in, and if you have any questions for him, he can ask, and
Well,
if he has questions for us, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have you go first. Do you have any questions for us?
What? So, how long? So it seems like you guys have been you're fairly recent to the committee.
Yeah, I'm the veteran. I've been here for a little over 3 years, but I was also on a couple of conservation commissions before that in other communities.
Yeah.
Both New Hampshire, Massachusetts.
You said you were in Falmouth.
In Fountain, and also in Hampstead, New Hampshire.
Okay.
But Hampstead, New Hampshire, those are mostly just dredge and fill permits and approving the lowering of the lake in the winter for prevent dock damage.
Okay. And the rest of you guys have been.
Couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, I've been here since January, but I'm a retired environmental engineer.
Okay.
And then Stephanie Quinlan is on maternity leave.
Okay.
She's a
Falls.
geologist?
She's I believe she's a
I don't know what her
PG.
official thing, but she has a background in geology,
Yeah.
And Rich Golick, the alternate, or
Yeah, Rich is the.
Yeah, he's a water, he's a PhD water quality scientist,
Okay.
He's our vice chair.
vice chair, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I met him.
Okay,
Yeah, I have, I'm a geologist by training, I have a PhD as a stratigrapher.
okay,
I have a professional certification nationally as such, and I've been doing it for 10 years plus.
okay.
So I worked for the State Geological Survey a few years ago, so I've got some experience with bridges and culverts and
Okay.
underground, groundwater. But a lot of geological.
Oh, that certainly could come in handy here on the commission.
Sure, and also I was living in Leverett last year and the year before and the year before that. I was on the Board of Health there, and I was the chair last year.
In Leverett?
in Leverett,
Yeah.
So we did, we encountered a lot of groundwater issues there as well.
Okay,
The geology background came
Sure.
in.
arsenic.
Arsenic, PFAS, actually. There's an inexplicable PFAS plume in
Really?
Leverett.
Wow.
It's very high concentrations, and we work with Mass DEP to chase that down and remediate it.
No obvious source, huh?
At least treat the affected wells.
Huh.
And it's all It's all private wells, so wells and septic.
Hmm.
There's no town water supply. We also
Yeah, it's
have,
tiny town,
it's a small town, it's maybe 1,800 people.
Yeah.
We had another, we also had contaminated water coming from the landfill. So, but you also have, it's a small town with 800 wells and 800 septic systems. So you gotta deal with each of them.
PFAS gonna be coming from the landfill?
A little bit, there's dioxin and dioxin comes from landfill, and that's what,
What are they throwing in there? That's insane.
yeah, I think it's dioxin from the landfill that exceeds the state standards. The PFAS is close, but the PFAS isn't such a big issue coming from the landfill.
Yeah.
It's it's like upwards of 500 parts per million in North Lebanon, which is
Wow.
or maybe parts per trillion, but it's, the standard is,
Quadrillions now, isn't it?
I think the state standard is like 20. So it's an order of magnitude.
Parts per trillion.
Yeah.
Alright,
So yeah, the Mass DEP's been in there installing. So.
okay,
Anyway, so yeah, I was the chair of that last summer.
okay.
You
So
guys-
what brings you to Leominster?
There was so I left Leverett because I received an offer from a Chinese acrobat who lived in Los Angeles, and she said marry me and move to LA, and I took her up on it. I didn't know her very well. I wanted a new life. So I went out there and
It sounds kinda sketchy to me, Chris.
hey, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so I did it, I went out there and I got engaged to her, but she didn't treat me very well, and by the winter I decided I had to get out of there.
Yeah.
My parents lived in town here,
Oh, okay.
so I've been staying with them. I was planning a trip to India in the spring, and then I was gonna get a job, do something else. I had a job lined up to explore for uranium, gold, and lithium in Wyoming this summer, but that fell through. And now I'm the farm foreman in New Salem Cider and Preserves
Okay.
up there, so I'm working the apple orchard 60+ hours a week. And
No.
it's awesome.
Good.
So
Wow.
lesson learned is you avoid the acrobats and go with the jugglers.
Avoid avoid these performers.
This is all,
But you know, that was exhausting.
Hey, 2020 hindsight, right?
Yeah, you know, I just wanted something new. But I got to move out. I got to live in LA for a little bit.
There you go. Alright.
I appreciate your honesty.
It was well.
It'll be a good asset on the board.
And it's a good story.
Yeah, no, that's
Oh,
awesome.
you know, I had to try it.
Yeah,
Anybody else have any questions for Nick, not Chris?
another Nick.
Another Nick, yeah. Alright. Well, thanks, Nick.
Awesome,
Thanks
thanks.
for coming. By the way, our meetings usually aren't quite this long.
Yeah.
Usually 8 o'clock at the latest.
I was running 2-hour+ meetings at the Board of Health.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
We just, there's no, I mean, at least you guys have, you guys have some more resources than we did in Leverett.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
tiny town, yeah.
We were slammed
Yeah.
with issues.
Yeah.
And we would consistently have meetings that ran over 2 hours long.
You know, when I was like Concom, you heard me mention I was at Concom in Falmouth. Those things, because not only was the ponds and the rivers, but you get the ocean as well. And we 4-hour meeting was unusual, sometimes they were 5. It was just insane,
Yeah, that's outrageous.
just crazy.
Yeah.
Alright, well, thanks, Nick, appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming, appreciate your interest.
So, yeah,
Only one motion to go.
yeah, that's true.
Before we close, you had asked me to look up some information for helping private homeowners.
Yes.
Did you want to discuss that outside the meeting, or did you want, I can call you tomorrow? You want me to tell you in the commission?
Talk about it now if you want.
Okay, I reached out to
As long as
DCR.
it's certain,
It'll be
I don't wanna
quick.
be putting stuff, yeah.
Yo, there's nothing certain.
Okay.
Don't worry, I reached
Okay,
out
great,
to,
yeah.
I'm waiting to hear back from FEMA, MEMA, DCR,
Yep.
flood management. I'm trying to find some resources for the homeowners that were severely impacted. To do maybe my goal, for DEP would be a managed retreat, like to try, how can we keep, instead of just
Interesting.
rebuilding, what are we looking at? Are we going up? Are we looking at, completely, I did confirm there's no buyout program. I was hoping, I'd gone to a workshop where they talked about buyout programs, there is nothing for Massachusetts, but that doesn't mean a buyout isn't possible, other funding resources. So still working on that, I'll try to get you some more information.
Okay.
The other thing is I did check in with our Zero Wetlands team, there's only 5 of us, but, Judy's our section chief, and she was saying, you and I had talked about, it feels very cold when a homeowner calls and says, the river is eating my yard, it's eating my swing set, it's eating my shed, it's eating my fence. And we don't wanna say, tough Twinkies, you move next to a river, deal with it, like it's, instead, Judy's saying, especially with this extreme event, this was a very extreme event, a lot of the things that happened were the result of upstream sedimentation. The Pleasant Street house, really, there was a lot of accumulated sediment behind that dam upstream that could have possibly come through like a cannonball and really affected that. And then, so realistically, we don't have to design for that event. And they can look at historic aerials, like the Exchange Street family could look at, it still would require an NOI, but they could look at restoring the historic pattern of the stream. But it would be expensive, they'd have to look at, engineering and looking at a naturalized rebuilding of the stream bank, not just sticking a bunch of stone, filling it with dirt and putting the stream back on top, or new retaining walls, but like using core logs or natural embankment systems to restore it to what it was historically, as long as it's engineered, so.
Alright,
Thank you.
That's
thank
it.
you, Mia.
Thank you, Mia. But yeah, so assuming everyone's good with it, I don't see any objections to Nick joining us here, so I'm gonna be in touch with city council and the mayor. The mayor is the one that ends up appointing the commission members, but that needs to come through city council approval as well. So you'll have to attend one meeting there, just just for them to ask you questions, whatever, and give their approval. But then following that, then we can get you on here officially. And depending on when that happens, we could get you, we could definitely get you on for the next meeting under like a temporary appointment if none of that happens soon enough. So if you're up for it, we can get you in starting October 10th. So, but I'll be in touch with you on that.
I'll come to your meetings, until then.
Okay. Yeah. That'll be the next meeting is October 10th. So I'm saying we could probably get you.
If it doesn't happen, I'm happy to come to the meetings.
Okay. Awesome.
However long it takes.
Alright, but I'll be in touch with you about that and let you know when the city council meeting is and all that.
Thanks.
Thanks, Nick. Anything under commissioner news?
No, nothing crazy, but I did, like I had mentioned, on the walk, there was a interested candidate, and then, on a recent site visit.
Do we have 2 openings?
Thank you.
Okay, yes,
Meeting.
thank you, Mia, thank you for coming out.
Do we have 2 openings?
No, so we only have the one opening, so Nick is first come, first served,
Right,
he got that in,
yeah.
and you're a great candidate, so I definitely wanna get you in. But we've got 2 other pretty good candidates, that I'm just gonna keep their names in my back pocket, and if another opening opens up, then, this is just to say that we have a backup.
Okay,
We have a backlog of people that are interested in joining, so.
it's an unusual circumstance.
Yeah.
Good, thank
It's
you.
all good.
Alright.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, I have nothing new in terms of bylaw progress, I'm continuing to hoping to do that.
Yeah.
Alright, so moving on to next meetings, next one is October 10th. The filing deadline was this past Friday, September 22nd at noon. And the following one in October is October 24th, filing deadline being October 6th, 2023 at noon. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Michael, is there a second?
I'll second.
I think I heard.
There's a rush to
I think I heard Bob first.
Yeah.
See how let's get out of here.
Jim? Aye. And Chuck?
Aye.
Alright, meeting
Wonderful.
adjourned.